The staircases had appeared, which signified that the Sage King convention had finally started. The next moment, countless disciples shouted and charged toward them. That idiot! Where is he? It's starting. Bai Shirshir looked around anxiously. Big sister, don't worry. Long Chun must be doing something important for him to not be here yet. In the end, the Sage King convention depends on power to win. Whether he arrives early or late doesn't matter, as long as he gets here before it closes, said Yu Qingxian. Just as they were speaking, countless disciples already flooded toward the staircase on their side. It was quite the sight. Upon closer examination, it seemed that every race only had one staircase. On the side designated for the human race there were numerous cultivators, and they could only go up through this one staircase. Fortunately, this staircase was big enough. Even as millions and millions of experts flooded toward it, it didn't seem too packed. These experts climbed up frantically. However, while they started off fast, they quickly slowed down. It was because ripples began to appear on top of the stairs like water, causing their speed to plummet. Suddenly, the crowd on the High Firmament Academy's plaza parted. Looking at the source of the commotion, Bai Shirshir and Yu Qingxian cried out at the same time. Long Chun, what happened to you? Long Chen's clothes were in tatters, and there was still blood on them. It was as if he had just fought an intense battle. Bai Shirshir's anger seemed to just vanish as she looked at Long Chun worriedly. I'm fine. Sorry for being late, said Long Chun. He then cupped his fists toward the palace master. The palace master nodded back, not saying anything. Only then did Long Chun look at the Dragonblood warriors. As they looked at each other, all their eyes reddened. Good brothers, now isn't the time to reminisce. On the Martial Heaven continent, we swept through all our enemies, becoming the #1 legion of the continent. Today we stand on the land of the immortal world. We will be facing countless heavenly geniuses and endless monsters. But I believe that our Dragonblood warriors can stand at the peak of this world as well. The position of the immortal world's #1 legion will belong to us, shouted Long Chun passionately as he looked at his brothers. To us! The Dragonblood warriors roared and unleashed a heaven-shaking battle intent that moved even the palace master. Their undefeatable will rose and clashed with the very heavenly Daos, causing even the heavenly Daos to shudder. After all, the Dragonblood warriors had been following Long Chun for a long time, and every heavenly tribulation they faced was a fight against the heavenly Daos. Since they had never yielded to the heavenly Daos, their will was something ordinary heavenly geniuses couldn't compare to. Perhaps their power wasn't the strongest, but their will was definitely tougher than anyone else. Move out. Today is the day of reunion for our Dragonblood Legion. We will show the world the style of the hot-blooded men of the Martial Heaven continent, shouted Long Chun. Long Chun waved his hand, and the Dragonblood warriors immediately followed Long Chun to that wide staircase. The High Firmament Academy and Battle God Palace's disciples also charged over. Their group was like a long dragon yet also like a sharp blade, directly pointing at the Sage King martial stage. Fuck, what a conner. All these brats have been conned by him. No wonder my daughter would fall for his con as well, grumbled Bai Zhantong upon seeing the Dragonblood warriors' passionate gazes. That's not called conning but charisma. That's the highest realm of a commander. Old Bai, you wouldn't be so petty as to be jealous of your son-in-law, right? The vice palace master couldn't help interjecting. Me, jealous of him? What a joke. With his little bit of power, I don't even place him in my eyes, snorted Bai Zhantong. Us brothers have been together for many years, but I can't listen to this in good conscience. Long Chun is definitely the most outstanding youngster I've seen in this lifetime. There's nothing to complain about in terms of his talent, power, or character. Just the fact that he is able to make so many powerful experts loyal to him already shows how outstanding he is. Even if none of that counts, the fact that he has the position of dean at his age. Fuck, I say, old Bai, you made me say those things on purpose. You're just trying to show off. You don't really look down at Long Chun at all. The vice palace master suddenly sensed something off and glared at Bai Zhantong. TCH, I don't know what you're talking about, snorted Bai Zhantong scornfully. However, The other vice palace master still wore an expression of disbelief. Now, he understood that this brother of his was just showing off. Just as they were talking, Long Chun had led everyone to the stairs, where a group of people had gathered, waiting for him. These people stood firmly in place, yet upon spotting Long Chun, they all bowed to him in unison. They were the Starry River sect's disciples. A whole 8 million disciples had been waiting for him all this time. When the Academy's experts saw this, they were shocked. A large majority of them actually didn't know that Long Chun had a connection to the Starry River sect. Hence, upon seeing 8 million disciples of the Starry River sect bowing to him, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It had to be known that currently, the Starry River sect had assembled the largest group of disciples in the Immortal King realm from the human race, so no one dared to offend them. Seeing this scene, Bai Shirshir's mother and Bai Shaola's mother smiled proudly. To be acknowledged by so many people, Long Chun could be said to be worthy of Bai Shirshir. Bai Shirshir's vision could also be called excellent. As her mother, they were happy and proud of her. Bai Zhantong still had a disdainful expression on his face, but anyone who wasn't a fool knew that this expression was faked. The Starry River sect's disciples followed closely behind Long Chun once he passed. They seemed to have reached the point of simply following him blindly, causing countless people to cast sidelong glances at them. Humph, what significance do numbers hold? It's nothing more than a group of rabble, sneered someone from the sidelines just as Long Chun and the others set foot onto the staircase. Long Chun turned to look and his gaze instantly turned cold. The speaker belonged to a group of violet-robed disciples, led by a young man and woman whom Long Chun had encountered. They were the Violet Blood Race's Su family. That sneer came from the girl called Su Xiner. Upon spotting her, Bai Shaola was notably incensed, and an icy killing intent gleamed in his eyes. He vividly remembered their prior encounter when she had forcibly taken the violet pupil nine-tail fox, nearly causing him to lose his eyes to get it back. This lingering enmity had not faded from his memory. Are you in such a rush to reincarnate? If you really can't wait any longer, I'll send you on your way right now. Long Chun also remembered this enmity. If it weren't due to them both being from the violet blood race, he'd have long since killed her. Hence, for her to actually provoke him again, his fury instantly rose. The violet blood race's Su family only comprised over 20,000 people, yet each of them was an elite amongst elites. Enveloped in the aura of violet chi, they exuded an overwhelming presence. Their group was right beside Long Chun and the others. Seeing them come in such astounding numbers, Su Xiner was displeased and directly mocked them. As for Long Chun's response, it worsened the conflict. After all, Long Chun had long since made his determination to kill this loathsome woman. For some reason, Long Chun found himself growing increasingly repulsed by the Su family. That repulsive feeling didn't seem to stem purely from Su Xiner injuring Bai Shaola, but rather from deep inside his soul or perhaps his blood. Big words. Do you think you can bully the Su family just because you have numbers? You're too naive. Why don't you all come at me together? I, Sui Feng, will face all of you at once, sneered the man beside Su Xiner. This man was called Sui Feng, and he was even more arrogant than Su Xiner. He directly pointed at Long Chun and the others, his eyes full of contempt. This provocation ignited a burning fury within everyone, causing Guoran and the rest of the group to be brimmed with murderous intent. After all, this fresh hostility was heaped upon the previous grudge before it had a chance to be resolved. Did they think that they were easy to bully? To dare to provoke my boss, you really don't know how death is written. The surroundings brightened a bit, as a large muscular man walked over with a spear on his back. Discover the complete story on. There wasn't a single blade of hair growing on his barren head. It was glossy, reflecting the sunlight strongly. Even with countless experts around him, he still stood out like usual. Boss Gu Yang. The Dragon Blood warriors let out a burst of cheers when they saw this bald man. It was Gu Yang. The current Gu Yang was even more muscular than he was in the 3000 worlds, and he seemed to have grown a bit taller as well. Moreover, his blood chi was like an active volcano that would erupt at any moment. There were runes tattooed all over his neck, face, and arms. Essentially, every bit of his skin that they could see was covered with runes that emitted terrifying fluctuations. Gu Yong was like a beast in human form. As soon as he appeared, his explosive aura suffocated the people around him. "Boss, leave this fellow to me. Let me give our brothers some encouragement," said Gu Yong. "Gu Yong, that's wrong. You're the first captain. You should modestly decline and let your brothers deal with such matters." A burst of laughter rang out like thunder as two figures walked over. With every step they took, ripples appeared on the ground, thrumming with the might of the earth. These two were Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. They had also come at this time. Just like Gu Yong, their faces, necks, and arms were branded with runes. Seeing them arrive, Long Chun and the others were delighted. They finally met again. To his surprise, Long Chun could sense that the runes on their bodies had the flavor of original Julie Immortal characters. They clearly had their own fortuitous encounters. "Greetings, boss." They cupped their fists to Long Chun at the same time. The next moment, the three of them exchanged a look and laughed. At least, the brotherly feelings between them were still so strong. Long Chun also laughed. "Brothers don't need to be courteous. Today is the reunion of our Dragonblood Legion. It's time to let our name resound throughout the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Ha ha ha." Gu Yong, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan laughed heroically, feeling like they had returned to their glory days on the Martial Heaven continent. "Boss, don't you think it's rude to say that it is a reunion when I'm not there yet?" Just then, a person appeared with a sword on his back. He didn't have the slightest aura of a cultivator on him, yet merely gazing upon him sent shivers coursing through the hearts and souls of those who beheld him. It was like he was a walking sword, and anyone who dared to get close to him would have their souls cut by his sharpness. "Ha ha ha, Zifeng, this time, you're the last one to arrive," laughed Gu Yong. "Isn't that very normal? The first, second, third, and now fourth captains are all here. Arriving fourth is following the order," laughed Yu Zifeng. "Damn, you know how to joke now? Ha ha ha." Gu Yong and the others laughed. For Yu Zifeng to jest in this manner felt as astonishing as witnessing the sun rise in the west. "However, I still feel like you look a bit better when you're not laughing," chortled Guoran. Yu Zifeng didn't get angry when he heard this. He just came to Long Chen's side and cupped his fists. "Boss, this time, let's kill until the heavens flip." "Good. Today, we're announcing the rise of the Dragonblood Legion to the 9 heavens and 10 lands. No one can stop our footsteps." Long Chun was also infected by their emotions. Before this, he had been thinking about concealing their power. But now, it felt like he had returned to his glory days on the Martial Heaven continent. That fearless Long Chun had returned. They had barely gotten to see each other in the 3,000 worlds. But now, as they were truly reunited, they vowed to flip this world upside down. Their excitement at reuniting was so overwhelming that it caused them to momentarily forget about the Su family's provocation. A group of rabble also dares to spout such big words? How laughable. You can brag until you shake the heavens. But do you dare to actually fight? It's been a while since I've spilled blood. My hands are itching for it, taunted Sui Feng with icy disdain. Sui Feng was angry. As a peak heavenly genius of the Su family, he had the purest violet blood of his generation. In fact, his bloodline purity had almost regressed to an ancestral state. This time, the Su family viewed the title of Sage King as a must-have. But to claim this title, they had to be prepared to defeat experts from the various factions, and Sui Feng had to walk a path paved with bones. In truth, on the way to the starfield, Sui Feng and Su Xiner had killed countless experts. As a result, the Su family's disciples were already quite used to such occurrences. Actually, upon their arrival at the Sage King Prefecture, they had held themselves back. Otherwise, when Su Xiner set her sights on the violet pupil 9-tail fox, they would have launched an attack without hesitation. Since that was the case, when Long Chun and the others were viewing them as nothing more than empty air, they were enraged. No one had dared to ignore them like this. Only then did Long Chun and the others recall that there was the Su family to deal with. Long Chun turned back to them, At the same time, Luo Bing and Luo Ning couldn't help becoming a bit nervous. In truth, they were still hoping for both sides to get along. After all, they were all from the violet blood race. There was no need to slaughter each other for such a minor matter. However, the Su family persisted in provoking them time and time again, so they also understood Long Chen's feelings. Despite being fraught with worry, they knew that they couldn't do anything. "Are you guys traitors of the violet blood race?" asked Long Chen suddenly. This question made Luo Bing and Luo Ning jump in fright. As for the Su family's experts, all their expressions contorted upon hearing this question. Weapons were swiftly drawn, and a malevolent killing intent surged forth from their ranks. This was a question that had been hovering in Long Chen's mind for a long time now. Long Chen also had violet blood flowing within his body, so according to reason, he should feel closer to people with violet blood. In the Luo family, Long Chen could sense the close bloodline call. On the other hand, Long Chen only felt disgust toward the Su family. Long Chen had no proof, but that didn't stop him from brazenly guessing. As a result, the Su family's experts were all enraged. "Who the fuck do you think you are to blaspheme my violet blood race? Face your death." Violet Qi erupted out of Sui Feng as he prepared to attack. "Long Chen, the Sage King convention is about to start, but you're still so bored as to cause trouble here?" Following that pretty voice, a woman in a multicolored dress floated over like a cloud. It was Jiang Fengfei, and behind her were hundreds of thousands of the Jiang clan's disciples. As for those who could stand side by side with her, there were actually 3 of them. Their auras were on the same level as hers. Fengfei was viewed favorably by the Jiang clan as her power was astonishing. Thus, she was definitely a peak existence amongst supreme heavenly geniuses. Upon her arrival, Fengfei didn't even look at the Su family. In fact, she didn't even look at Su Yifeng and just greeted Long Chen with a faint smile. Long Chen shrugged helplessly. "You know that I don't cause trouble. Rather, it's other people finding trouble for me. Haha, you should hurry up. Whatever personal grievances you have can be settled on the martial stage. If you were to fight here, outsiders would interfere, and it would be difficult to have a decisive fight. Why waste the time? If you miss getting there in time and are rejected outside the martial stage, that would be too regretful. I've been anticipating your display all this time," said Fengfei expectantly. "Who are you?" Looking at Fengfei greeting Long Chen so warmly, Bai Shishir coldly asked who she was. Fengfei smiled slightly at Bai Shishir's vigilant expression. "I am an old acquaintance of Long Chen. Did he not tell you about me? Hey, don't spout nonsense." Seeing Bai Shishir's expression, Long Chen hastily called out. This Fengfei was trying to set him up. "Ha ha ha." Fengfei laughed. Covering her mouth as she laughed, she said, "Who would have thought that the peerless hero of the martial heaven continent, who is still peerless in the immortal world, would have such a side? Ha ha ha." "Long Chen, who is she?" demanded Bai Shishir. She was getting uncomfortable with Fengfei's actions. She felt provoked. This could be fatal. Long Chen didn't know how to explain. That was because he and Fengfei had no relationship at all. But if he were to explain it this way, Bai Shishir would feel like he was hiding something. Enjoying the tense atmosphere, Fengfei actually winked at Long Chen. After that, she left, passing by Long Chen and the Su family's people. "Long Chen, who is she? Why are you so nervous around her?" pressed Bai Shishir. Jealousy was after all a common trait among women, and Bai Shishir was particularly wary of Fengfei's unmatched beauty. Long Chen didn't know how to explain. "Shishir, this woman was trying to get Long Chen in trouble just to make you press Long Chen like this. Don't fall for it," said Yu Qingxian with a smile. Hearing this, Long Chen had the urge to kiss Yu Qingxian. In the end, it was Yu Qingxian who was more sensible. As for Bai Shishir, she looked shrewd but was in truth fatally naive. "I'm not falling for anything, all right?" Bai Shishir turned her nose up and looked away. However, she couldn't help but ask, "Did she know you from the mortal world?" Long Chen nearly stumbled. When emotions took hold of women, they could act quite foolishly. Yu Qingxian was the one who smiled and dragged Bai Shishir away, whispering in her ear. Through Feng Fei's interference, Long Chen's killing intent had mostly faded. Just as Feng Fei said, attacking people here wasn't very effective. Considering that Su family's old fellows were present, unless Long Chen could kill all the disciples in one move, the old fellows would likely intervene. He also knew that this course of action was not very realistic. Let's go. Long Chen ignored the Su family's people and started walking up the staircase. Although he still wasn't sure if they were traitors of the violet blood race, it didn't matter either way. If they dared to provoke him, he would slaughter them all. So you admit that you're a coward? Sneered an expert of the Su family. Long Chen ignored them, while Gu Yang and the others frowned but didn't say anything. They began to chat and walk up the stairs. What a shame. Just a bit off. The palace master sighed regretfully. Seeing his disappointment, Bai Zhantong and the other vice palace master exchanged a look. They both knew that the palace master wished that Long Chen would attack so he would have an excuse to join in the battle. However, Long Chen didn't know about this thirst of the palace master. He was just walking up the stairs with Gu Yang and the others. Once they were on the stairs, just as Long Chen expected, a formation was applying pressure on them. However, this pressure was nothing to Long Chen and the others. Long Chen asked his brothers and found that Gu Yang, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan were brought here by their masters. Moreover, their inheritances were ancient, and they also had their own immortal character totems. Curiously, the way they cultivated was about the same. With the help of their masters, they had directly branded the immortal characters onto their bodies. This way, even when the Sage King convention ended, they would be able to continue comprehending the characters over time. Although the tattoos looked a bit ugly, they were very helpful for their future. According to what they knew, after comprehending these characters, they would be inscribed in their bloodline. Apparently, their masters had put in a great deal of work to do this for them. In fact, the masters had even sacrificed some of their longevity to create this opportunity for them. On the other hand, Yu Zifeng was different from the three of them. His inheritance land was a sword mound, and all sword cultivators could gain comprehension from it. But when they asked what Yu Zifeng had obtained from it, he simply smiled and didn't answer. A while after Long Chen and the others started climbing, the martial stage suddenly emerged from the ground. Seawater gushed forth from the four sides of the martial stage. A deep blue waterfall rose, forming a giant water barrier covering the martial stage. Now, the martial stage was fully separated from the land. Long Chen's expression changed slightly when this blue water screen appeared. Sensing that change, Bai Shishir asked, "What is it? I have some kind of bad premonition." Long Chen's gaze sharpened as he looked at the blue canopy. "Boss, what is it? What is off?" Gu Yang and the others treated Long Chen's gut feeling seriously. They were very clear on how sharp Long Chen's spiritual perception was. If he felt something wrong, then that probably did mean that something major was about to happen. "I'm not sure. In any case, some kind of danger is silently approaching. Be careful. Speaking of which, this is yours." Long Chen suddenly thought of something important. A spear manifested in Long Chen's hand. When Gu Yang saw that spear, his eyes instantly brightened. "Boss, is this for me?" It had to be known that Gu Yang's current spear was only a world domain divine item, and it was only somewhat above average amongst world domain divine items. As Gu Yang's power had been constantly growing, he had long since wanted to switch out his spear, but he had never found a more suitable weapon. This time, after the branding of the Jili immortal characters, Gu Yang's power had risen a great deal, causing his current spear to fall short of meeting his demands. As for the spear in Long Chen's hands, Gu Yang instantly perceived its terrifying fluctuations and sensed an overflowing battle intent. It actually formed a resonance with him. "No, I'm not giving it to you. I am entrusting it to you, so you have to treat it properly. Starting today, it is your life and death comrade." Long Chen solemnly handed the spear to Gu Yang with both hands. Gu Yang extended his hands as well and received it reverently. The moment he touched it, the spear rumbled, and the runes on Gu Yang's body gradually lit up. Gu Yang's blood qi seemed to be on the verge of erupting like a volcano, emanating intense fluctuations. Just like that, Gu Yang actually formed a spiritual resonance with this spear. Its item spirit was attracted by his soul. When he clasped the spear in his hands, he even had a feeling like it was his flesh and blood. "Boss, don't worry. I won't fail it." Gu Yang clenched the spear excitedly. The spear automatically flew behind Gu Yang. As for the original spear on his back, it directly crumbled in front of this domineering spear. Long Chun was excited by this discovery. This spear was taken from the great desolate winged devil's corpse. At the time, it had been determined to die with the winged devil. However, it was now displaying the might of an eternal divine weapon again. Its battle intent was triggered. With this spear, Gu Yang's power would rise by an unimaginable amount. Regretfully, Long Chun didn't have suitable weapons for Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. Anyway, eternal divine weapons could not be used by just anyone. The few rejects that he had were already given to Xiachun and Guoran to study. Long Chun patted Gu Yang's shoulder. After entrusting this spear to him, Long Chun was at ease. Long Chun then looked back and saw Mu Qingyun show a certain expression on her face. Seeing this, Long Chun seemed to comprehend something and suddenly turned to Yu Zifeng. "Zifeng, let me introduce you. This is Mu Qingyun." Long Chun beckoned to Mu Qingyun, who then shyly walked forward and bowed to Yu Zifeng. "Qingyun greets Senior." Yu Zifeng nodded at her. "Your sword Dao has passed through the gateway. However, the thing that you have learned is only copies from others. You don't have your own techniques. Without your own comprehension, there are two problems. One is that walking forward will be very hard, and the other is that it will be even more difficult to walk far. Many thanks for Senior's pointers." Mu Qingyun once more bowed to Yu Zifeng, excited by these pointers. "Qingyun, Zifeng is a master of the sword Dao. You should learn as much as you can from him," said Long Chun with a smile. Hearing that, Yu Zifeng was startled and said, "You've managed to pass the entryway, so as long as you can determine your own path and comprehend your own sword Dao, you shouldn't have many problems. You can follow me." "Many thanks, Senior." Mu Qingyun was overjoyed. Yu Qingxian and Bai Shishir exchanged a look, each seeing the same thing in the other's eyes. It seemed that Long Chun was playing the matchmaker. However, the two of them didn't seem to react that way. Rather than a romantic relationship, they seemed more like a master and a disciple. Mu Qingyun still had an excited smile on her face, and she started following right behind Yu Zifeng. "Let's go." Long Chun led the way forward. Due to pausing for a while, others had charged past them. They were now in the final batch of people climbing the staircase. The staircase stretched on endlessly, and the pressure intensified with each step, making their ascent increasingly arduous. Even peak experts were forced to slow down after reaching the middle point, and there was still a long path in front of them. Long Chun kept an eye on the blue screen as he walked. He found that as time passed, this screen grew increasingly thick. Furthermore, odd fluctuations were gathering at the roof. After a couple of hours, Long Chun and the others were still climbing smoothly. As the pressure grew, many others were starting to feel exhausted and forced to slow down. Long Chun and the others then shot past those people, reaching the midpoint of the pack. Long Chun and his companions didn't feel fatigued at all. After all, the Dragonblood warriors had experienced far more than this little bit of pressure. The Starry River sect's disciples were also outstanding, and not one of them was slowing down. It was the Academy's disciples that were starting to feel some pressure. Some were panting and sweating, but the Battle God Palace's disciples were still in top condition as if they didn't feel the pressure at all. As they continued climbing, suddenly, a person that they were passing by coughed up blood. This person's power was only average, but he was too competitive to slow down. As a result, he had pushed himself too hard. The moment he coughed up blood, Long Chen's expression changed. He saw the blood mysteriously vanish once it fell on the stairs, as if it was absorbed by some power. Long Chen looked up. He found that the blue screen had gained some blood-colored marks. Could it be? Long Chun was shocked, and that feeling of unease grew stronger. "Brother, are you all right? If you can't keep going, you should rest a bit. Don't push yourself too hard," kindly advised someone else. "I can't die in this trial by fire. I will definitely excavate my potential here." That person clenched his teeth and continued pushing himself. After taking a deep breath, he made a sudden push and climbed over 10 steps in one go. However, something bizarre then occurred, horrifying everyone. Boom! All of a sudden, that person's body exploded, transforming into blood mist that was then absorbed by an invisible energy. That person's existence was gone. This is... Countless people's expressions changed. They finally sensed something wrong. How can this be? We're in the Sage King trial by fire. The martial stage hasn't been activated yet. How can someone die here? In the past, if you were eliminated, didn't you get transported out? How could someone die like this? Terrified cries of disbelief rang out. I'm not participating in this Sage King convention. Boom! One person turned back and ran down the stairs, only to run into an invisible wall. He then exploded along with his weapon, transforming into blood mist. In that instant, countless experts on the stairs and those watching were appalled. Why was this Sage King convention different from all past Sage King conventions? Moreover, it wasn't just the human race's side that encountered this problem. The other paths had similar issues. Casualties were appearing amongst the weak. After these people died, their blood was absorbed by some mysterious power. As a result, the blood-colored marks on the blue screen grew deeper, as if the blood was absorbed by them. What's going on? When did the Sage King Convention's laws grow so cruel? The weak who are washed out can only die. Someone roared in shock and anger. However, no one replied as everyone was staring in shock at the martial stage. At this moment, the countenance of Bai Shirshir's and Bai Shaola's mother darkened. The dean did say that this generation's Sage King convention occurred very oddly. Could it be that he already noticed something and didn't say it? Wondered Bai Shirshir's mother. The dean had come with them but then quickly left. He only told everyone to be careful when watching this generation's Sage King convention. Nothing more. This scene made Bai Shirshir's mother fraught with worry. But the martial stage was already covered, and they could not save Long Chun and the others anymore. The other factions were equally helpless. If those who were washed out were slain by the laws here, just how many people would survive this martial stage? How many would die? These people could not sit still. Some of them even tried getting close to that enormous blue barrier. Boom! An innate heaven venerate unleashed a ray of divine light at the barrier. The moment the ray of light struck the blue barrier, it shattered like an egg thrown at a city wall. Meanwhile, the barrier didn't even budge. A full power attack from an innate heaven venerate appeared insignificant in front of it. Upon witnessing this, countless people's hearts sank. Although some did consider themselves stronger than this innate heaven venerate, in the end, their power was also limited. If his full power attack resulted in nothing, then they wouldn't be able to shake this formation either. In other words, other than watching, there was nothing else they could do. The senior generation outside was panicking, but the disciples inside were even more terrified. How is this a martial stage? This is clearly a trap to kill us all. A trap! When Long Chun heard this person's random shout, his heart jolted with astonishment. He then looked toward the barrier surrounding the martial stage, narrowing his eyes in suspicion. "Boss, what do we do?" asked Guaran. "Don't go too fast and don't spread out. If the weak and strong join forces, the pressure here won't increase. We can resist it together," said Long Chun. With this, the Dragonblood warriors, Battle God Palace's disciples, and even the experts of the Starry River sect immediately got to work. The stronger members came to the weaker members' side. Just as Long Chun said, with their support, the pressure on the weak instantly lessened. Seeing this, countless other disciples were envious, their eyes almost pleading, but they didn't dare to open their mouths. "If you don't want to take the risk, you can come with us," announced Long Chun after spotting those looks. These people were not that formidable, and the truly strong ones usually refused to let them exploit any advantage. Hence, after hearing Long Chen's words, those people were instantly filled with gratitude. As a result, tens of millions of disciples flowed toward Long Chen's side, mixing with Long Chen's group. The pressure on them was mostly relieved. In order to stabilize things, Long Chen didn't immediately advance. He waited for some disciples at the rear, knowing that once they left, those weaker disciples would all die. He couldn't just stand by and watch that unfold. This action resulted in mixed reactions from the spectators. Some praised him and some sneered at him. Some viewed him as a hero, a nobleman assisting the weak, while some viewed him as too soft-hearted to achieve anything big, wasting the power of the strong. If the strong members were not powerful enough to reach the end due to being dragged down by all the weaklings, they would all die. In their opinion, his action was the height of stupidity. Within the human race alone, multiple appraisals of Long Chen's actions emerged. Those with different opinions even descended into heated disputes, with some nearly coming to blows as they exchanged curses and sneers. However, the people inside the formation could not see what was happening outside. They couldn't even hear them. Actually, Long Chen wasn't someone who liked to meddle in other people's affairs. But as a member of the human race, he couldn't just watch as they died. As for what others thought about him, he really didn't care. He only did what he wanted to do. Other people's opinions were dog's hit to him. Long Chen continued to lead the way. The further up they went, the greater the pressure grew. But it was still within the realm that everyone could endure. Their ascent grew progressively slower, and they found themselves in the last group of the human race. As more people kept joining their ranks, their group continued to expand. As they reached the latter part of the middle section, their numbers swelled to over 80 million disciples. Among them, many were silk pants, people blessed with both talent and background but refused to work hard on cultivation. This lax approach resulted in their foundations being unstable, and although their auras might be powerful, it was essentially a facade. They were essentially living in their own dreams, thinking that they were top experts. But in front of these laws, they were beaten back into reality. Other than having a status that could dazzle others, they had no other strong points. If it weren't for Long Chen taking them in, they would eventually be erased by the laws here. At this point, the martial stage was already in view. Countless people had reached it, but the martial stage was still silent. Nothing was happening. Amongst those who had reached the top, some cheered for Long Chen and his group. They recognized Long Chen's efforts in elevating the status of the human race, and a few of the ones following him even belonged to the same faction as them. However, there were also those with repulsive mouths who insulted these people as trash, telling them to just die on the stairs and not embarrass themselves further. Even so, the absolute majority were just watching silently. Although they had managed to climb to the top, the martial stage had not reacted. They weren't transported away to start the one-against-one fights. The human race was occupying one corner of the martial stage. But as there were multiple staircases, other races began to appear as well. They seemed lost and were looking around. Some brash people wanted to directly charge to the center of the martial stage. But there was still a barrier there, and the ones who charged up to it exploded. Now no one knew what to do, so they could only wait there. At this time, Long Chen had reached the martial stage as well. Long Chen, now that we're on the martial stage, we'll see who can protect you. Just wait for your death today. Long Chen had just climbed up when someone from the Su family sneered at him. As a result, he had barely finished speaking when his neck was severed, his violet blood raining down from the spot where his head used to be. This sudden attack caused countless startled cries to erupt. The Su family's experts in particular were enraged. Su Yifeng and Su Exaner immediately attacked, their blows causing the void to collapse. However, they were just too slow and their attacks missed the target. A head fell from the sky to the ground, rolling toward that person's feet. It was only then that this person's headless corpse fell. The head was perfectly aligned with his neck, but its eyes had lost their luster and the soul within had dispersed. Who did it? Get out here! Su Yifeng let out a thunderous roar, causing violet qi to surge around him. After all, killing a member of his violet blood race was a declaration of war to them all. Anyone who targets my big brother Long Chun can't blame me for not being courteous. An icy voice rang out. Following that, a girl appeared, looking to only be 13 years old. She wore skin-tight black leather robes, and although her appearance was still tender, they still hugged her body tightly. "Who are you?" demanded Su Xener furiously. "Shadow Sect, Dong Mingyu." As the girl reported her name, multiple figures silently appeared beside her, akin to a group of phantoms. No one was able to sense their existence. Among them were both men and women, all wearing stoic expressions and emotionless eyes. Upon looking at them, all the experts here felt a shiver in their souls. "Shadow Sect." Someone gulped loudly enough for everyone to hear. After all, the Shadow Sect was the place where the most terrifying assassins were born. The Bloodkill Hall and the 9 Underworld Hall were unable to compare to them. Other assassins took missions, but the Shadow Sect's assassins specialized in hunting down their own kind, earning them the grim moniker of Assassinators of Assassins. They were regarded as the most formidable harbingers of death. In the past, people had only heard of tales about them but never actually seen them. They were essentially a legendary existence. However, when Dong Mingyu killed that fellow, and experts on Sui Feng and Su Xeiner's level couldn't intervene, everyone here was bearing witness to the style of the Shadow Sect's assassins. When the Shadow Sect's disciples appeared, despite their modest numbers, they still shook the hearts of countless onlookers. These assassins were like phantoms that could come and go whenever they wanted without anyone being the wiser. It was as if they could appear right behind anyone unnoticed, and in an instant, their daggers would cut off heads. Courting death. Who do you think your Shadow Sect is? Do you think my Violet Blood Race's Su family is afraid of you? Roared Su Yifeng. You're the ones courting death. Just then, a sneer rang out. Following that, countless people made a path for a group of men and women in fluttering light blue robes. Their leader in particular was like a fairy of the 9 heavens. Her robes and long hair billowed around her, and every single one of her steps was graceful and light. She was surrounded by swirling pale blue wind blades that left long black lines in the void. For peak experts, breaking the void was not difficult, and even tearing it apart couldn't count as impressive. However, the way these wind blades sliced through the void in utter silence caused countless peak experts to feel astonished. This showed that her control over wind energy had reached a pinnacle, and her wind blades could move according to her will. How could they defend against such a thing? Most terrifying of all, these wind blades were not intentionally summoned by her. They were the result of the wind energy of heaven and earth naturally gathering around her. This woman's arrival sent ripples of shock through the spectators. After all, she was followed by hundreds of experts, all of whom were the very rare wind element experts. "Who are you?" shouted Su Xener in shock and anger. "Wind Sect, Tang Waner." This woman was precisely Tang Waner, and she eyed Su Xener fiercely. "You shameless girl. Why are you targeting Long Chun like this? Speak. Are you trying to draw Long Chen's attention? Will you then display your womanly skills to seduce him? Everyone knows that this fellow Long Chun is a fickle pervert. He'll easily fall for such a thing. Tell me, am I right?" Toward the end, Tang Waner was clenching her teeth, as if she really was about to bite someone. On the other hand, Su Xener was left befuddled by the sudden twist in her story, not knowing how to reply. Long Chun and the others were delighted by Dong Mingyu and Tang Waner's arrival. But just as Long Chun was about to step forward and greet them, Tang Waner's words almost caused him to stumble to the ground. "Familiar. It's the same familiar Tang Waner." Guoran helplessly shrugged with an odd expression. When Tang Waner first appeared, Guoran and the rest were shaken by her terrifying power and the foreign aura around her. However, these words directly rekindled a familiar sensation, letting them recall the intense jealousy that burned within her, now even more intense than before. What nonsense are you spouting?" Su Xener shouted indignantly. With her status, how could she bother seducing anyone? "Humph, you can't even talk properly. You were planning to seduce him, weren't you? You slutty evil woman. Come over here. I'll teach you a lesson." Tang Wan'er pointed at Su Xiner angrily. Su Xiner was completely befuddled but also enraged that she felt like she might explode. She was somehow being insulted as some seductive whore. In all her years, it was her first time being insulted like this. Furthermore, countless people were staring at her oddly, seemingly approving of Tang Wan'er's words. This fueled her anger even further, causing her body to quiver. Who cares about the Wind sect? Since you want to die so badly, I'll kill you right now. Su Xiner roared. As she no longer cared about her image, killing intent directly burst out of her. Then we'll have to see if you have that ability. When this voice rang out, a sharp pain struck everyone's ears. It was as if their ears became frozen. The next moment, the world turned cold, and pure white snow began to drift through the air. In mere seconds, the earth was covered in frost. As the sound of footsteps appeared on top of the frozen ground, some people made a path for the newcomers. They could see a group of people walking over, led by a white-robed, peerless ice beauty. She was like a flawless ice sculpture of a goddess, and her skin was like white crystal, emitting a strange luster. There was nothing to nitpick about her appearance. Seeing her, Long Chun began to quiver with excitement. Ice Emperor line, Yi Jiqiu. Before the Su family's people asked, that woman already reported her origins, causing a lot of people around to gasp in surprise. The Ice Emperor line. Isn't that an immemorial inheritance? Startled cries rang out. Legend had it that the Ice Emperor line had gone extinct long ago. But now the Ice Emperor's descendants had appeared once again. Little you, big sister Jiqiu, don't fight with me over her. I'm going to teach this shameless woman a lesson, exclaimed Tang Wan'er. She seemed intent on fighting to the death with Su Xiner. Su Xiner was incensed. Although she knew that the Shadow Sect, Wind Sect, and Ice Emperor line were not pushovers, she had her own pride that did not permit her to retreat. She then stepped forward, but before she could speak, a figure shot over like a bolt of lightning. Everyone jumped in fright as that figure moved with such incredible speed that it was nearly imperceptible. All they saw was that this figure was throwing itself at Tang Wan'er. The Wind Sect's experts were startled. But just as they were about to attack this figure, they heard a delighted cry. Big Sister Wan'er, I've missed you. The figure of a young maiden appeared in Tang Wan'er's embrace. Seeing her, Tang Wan'er also cried out in delight. Cloud! Cloud had always been very close to Tang Wan'er, mainly due to their shared childlike personalities. Therefore, aside from Meng Qi, Tang Wan'er was the closest person to Cloud. Cloud excitedly hugged Tang Wan'er's neck and kissed her cheek. She was like an excited child. Good little sister, go rest for now. Big sister wants to beat someone up, said Tang Wan'er, patting Cloud's shoulder warmly. Big sister, who do you want to beat up? I'll help you, exclaimed Cloud. Sisters, what is going on? You want to fight someone as soon as you reunite? Is it to celebrate our reunion? Just then, a fairy-like voice rang out. When this beautiful figure walked over, the tense and dark atmosphere instantly transformed. Every woman who saw her felt ashamed of their inferiority, having never imagined that such a beautiful woman could exist in this world. Even as she stood there in front of them all, it was as though she weren't real. More like a fairy emerged from a painting, a transcendent and sacred presence that seemed out of place in this mundane world. Big sister Meng Qi. Tang Wan'er threw herself into Meng Qi's embrace and wept like an aggrieved child who had finally found a way to vent. Meng Qi smiled and gently stroked Tang Wan'er's hair. She softly said, All right, today is the day of our reunion. We should be happy. She then whispered, Long Chun has been in the immortal world for so long. Thus, for us to only gain one sister shows that he has restrained himself. We have to learn to be content. Meng Qi understood Tang Wan'er far too well. Tang Wan'er's jealous nature was completely unleashed upon seeing Long Chun having so many women around her. With nowhere else to vent her fury, she chose to challenge Su Xiner. After all, Long Chun didn't just have Yu Qingxian and Bai Shishir beside him. There was also Mu Qingyun, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Zhongling, Zhongxiu, and quite a few other women, which triggered her jealousy. She actually thought that Long Chun had found so many new lovers in the immortal world. Was he trying to make a competition between the martial heaven continents and the immortal world's wives? Are you sure? Tang Wan'er looked into Meng Qi's eyes. Hearing that only one newcomer was Long Chen's lover made her feel much better. People were just like that. Happiness was based on comparison. Even if she had only seen Bai Shirshir by Long Chen's side upon her arrival, she would still be jealous. However, after seeing the worst-case scenario and then learning that the truth wasn't as bad, she instantly felt much better. In fact, she didn't even feel bad about Bai Shirshir. Of course it's true. Foolish girl, do you not know who Long Chun is? Someone as powerful as him, who knows how to make girls happy. He's like honey drawing bees. How many women can resist his allure? Actually, that girl in the golden robes, her character's a bit like yours. In the future, we'll all be sisters, so don't be petty with her, implored Meng Qi in a quiet whisper. All right, I'll listen to you. Tang Wan'er obediently nodded. Amongst all the sisters, she listened to Meng Qi the most. And who are you? Demanded Su Xaner, an intense jealousy in her eyes. She had always been confident in her looks. However, seeing Bai Shirshir, Yu Qingxian, Dong Mingyu, Tang Wan'er, and Yi Zhiqiu had shaken her confidence. In terms of looks, she couldn't reach their level. But even if her looks were slightly worse than theirs, she still had her own immense power and background. Hence, she thought that she was better than them. However, when Meng Qi came, she was like a heavenly fairy, her transcendent air causing all other women to lose their splendor. Even the Su family's experts were staring at her, clearly won over by her air. As both men and women were toppled by Meng Qi's noble air, Su Xaner was not able to suppress her rage any longer. However, Meng Qi actually shook her head. I am nothing more than a nameless soldier, so I won't report my name. I am Long Chen's unmarried wife. If you have any issues, please find my husband. The sound of countless hearts breaking rang out. This peerless fairy was already taken. Junior sister Bai Shirshir greets big sisters. At this time, Bai Shirshir stepped forward and cupped her fists. Meng Qi and the others returned her greeting. After that, Meng Qi warmly held Bai Shirshir's hand. Ever since the 3,000 worlds, I've missed you. Let me introduce you to everyone. Meng Qi dragged Bai Shirshir over, introducing her to Dong Mingyu, Tang Wan'er, Yi Zhiqiu, and Cloud one by one. She also pulled Yu Qingxian over, as she felt particular care for Yu Qingxian. However, Dong Mingyu, Yi Zhiqiu, and Meng Qi didn't mention anything about the martial heaven continent. Back then, in order to awaken Long Chun, Yu Qingxian had gone through 1,000 reincarnations, a feat that shattered all their hearts. They also knew that Long Chun hadn't told her about the past in order to make up for what he owed her. He didn't want her to feel any burden. Long Chun wasn't worried about the others. His only worry was Tang Wan'er. If she were to get petty, things would become very awkward, and none of his abilities could resolve that. Fortunately, it turned out that they were getting along very well, talking and laughing. Actually, from the start, they didn't even say a word to Long Chun, not even greeting him. Boss, it's like you're not involved, laughed Goran. Shut up, raged Long Chin. You deserve it. Who told you to get a rod for the dog that doesn't bite? Said Tang Wan'er. You're the dog, raged Long Chin. This girl's guts were growing increasingly big. She was actually cursing him in a roundabout manner. Meng Qi and the others laughed. This one joke instantly made everyone feel closer. Suddenly, the martial stage rumbled. Everyone then looked toward the sky and saw a shocking scene. At some point, a web of blood-colored lines had appeared on top of the blue screen. It resembled an enormous spider's web enveloping the barrier, with its central hub positioned directly above the heart of the martial stage. The barrier also quivered in tandem with the martial stage. However, this net gave off a bloody aura. Other than the scarlet blood-colored lines, there were other colors as well. People could see some kind of energy gathering toward the center, where a circle of light came into view. However, that circle bore an eerie resemblance to the devil's eye. I understand. The Sage King martial stage's laws have changed. The weak are not fit to live in this world. They are always stepping stones for the strong, and their blood is now the energy used to activate the martial stage, shouted someone. Although this was just a guess, people found no way to argue against it. That was because the blood chi was all too obvious. In particular, the multiple colors of the blood chi in the barrier showed that it was the essence blood of all kinds of life forms. The people following Long Chun were shaken. They were part of those weaklings that would have died if it weren't for him. They had purely come here for the experience. Many of them just wanted to say that they had attended the Sage King convention so that they could brag about it in the future. After all, this was something that might not occur in millions of years. If they didn't participate, it would be their lifetime's regret. Furthermore, everyone knew that if you were eliminated from the Sage King convention, you would simply be transported out. However, the rules had somehow changed. This was a fatal competition now. Boom! Just then, that circle shook intensely, and the blood-colored cylinder of light pierced into the core of the martial stage. The next moment, the entire stage quivered, and multiple light spots appeared on it. Originally, every staircase was covered in a barrier, typically imperceptible to the naked eye. However, when this blow was launched, cracks appeared on the barriers, rendering them visible to all. These barriers had initially served as obstacles preventing anyone from accessing the martial stage's core. But when this attack was launched at the core of the martial stage, Long Chin noticed that the central area was also enclosed by its own protective barrier. Astonishingly, within this core region, another martial stage had materialized, mirroring the exact shape and form of the original one. It seemed to be both a minor world as well a projection of the entire Sage King prefecture. Boom! Another heavy blow struck the central barrier around the core of the martial stage, intending to open it. The result of this attack was that the central barrier remained completely intact, but the surrounding barriers at the entrances were shattered. With them destroyed, all the life forms were free to charge forward, so experts from all paths poured toward the center. Quick! Don't let the other races occupy it. Our human race will take it for ourselves. The laws of the Sage King convention had changed. Thus, no one knew what was happening, but taking the initiative couldn't be wrong. As a result, countless experts were rushing over like arrows flying off of a bowstring, all sharing a common purpose and intent. However, in terms of speed, the demonic beast had the advantage, so they were the first to reach the core. Rumbling sounds rang out as they attacked the barrier, trying to create a path for themselves. Even so, their attacks were unable to shake this barrier. Some of their weapons even shattered on contact. What is going on? Those demonic beasts were dumbfounded as they couldn't break the barrier. At this time, the other races arrived. Although it was called the core, it was still an area of millions of miles, making it possible for the experts from the various races to attack the barrier. This should be a test to see which race is stronger. Attack together. The other races crazily assaulted the barrier. However, on the human race's side, only a portion of them were attacking. Moreover, they were merely probing blows, not like the crazy assaults of the other races. However, all their attacks were unable to shake the barrier in the slightest. Everyone was dumbfounded. Big brother Long Chun, should I try it? Long Chun and the others also arrived in front of the barrier. However, Long Chun was lost in thought, and it was Dong Mingyu who spoke. The next moment, a black dagger appeared in her hand. It was precisely the dagger that Long Chun had given her. Dong Mingyu had not encountered anything capable of blocking it so far. However, this dagger was not something that she usually used. She normally kept it hidden under the orders of her master. Unless she had no other choice, she was not to use this dagger. Right now, everyone's attack on the barrier was useless, so Dong Mingyu wanted to see if this dagger could break it. Then they could be the first to occupy the inner martial stage. Don't! Long Chin shook his head. This matter is not so simple. I keep feeling like the Sage King convention this time is off. We should conserve our energy and just wait and see. Long Chin had checked the barrier. Even without Xia Chun telling him, he knew that this formation penetrated deep into the ground. It was a barrier connected with heaven and earth's laws. As a result, there was no opening it, at least not without Dong Mingyu using the mysterious dagger or Long Chun using the heaven-earth cauldron. However, as the situation was still unclear, Long Chun didn't want to expose his trump cards. In any case, it wasn't as if he would be the only one not allowed to participate in the Sage King convention. He'd leave it to others to think of a way through. Everyone was assaulting the barrier. People suggested that everyone start working together to attack it at the same time from different angles, but it was still useless. After a while, people grew impatient. Wait a moment, if the blood of the weak is the crux for activating the formation, then someone pointed up at the quivering blood net. The blood net was still quivering but was now powerless to keep attacking. It looked as if it needed new energy. With that person's reminder, everyone looked toward Long Chen's side. More accurately, they were looking at the weaker disciples whom he had brought up with him. Long Chun, you've broken the rules. Now the martial stage can't be activated. From the Su family's side, Su Yifeng immediately pointed and shouted at Long Chun. Following that, countless experts turned to Long Chun and the others. Su Yifeng had intentionally shouted so that everyone on the martial stage could hear him clearly. Long Chun clenched his fists, his killing intent exploding within his eyes. This Su Yifeng was too malicious. He was trying to get others to do his dirty work. In an instant, Long Chun became the target of all the lifeforms present. Kill them. If they don't die, the martial stage won't open. That's right, they should have died in the first place. This is all the will of the heavens. The weak are not qualified to live. Everything about the Sage King martial stage was already perfectly calculated. But you, Long Chun, were so meddlesome that you broke the rules of the martial stage, making it impossible to activate it. You owe all of us a debt. Numerous experts, bearing grudges against Long Chun or the High Firmament Academy, shouted in his direction. After all, upon his arrival at the High Firmament Academy's ruins, he had kicked out many insolent people. Remembering this grudge, they now took this chance to counterattack. You're spouting nonsense. A trembling cry rang out from behind Long Chun. They were all horrified to find that the ones who wanted them dead weren't the cruel devil race or the violent demonic beast race, but members of their own race. They clenched their teeth, knowing that there was no way to seek assistance from their own factions. They had no means to establish communication with the outside world, and besides, those on the outside were powerless to intervene. Long Chun, you get one chance to kill those useless people to make up for what you've done. Perhaps we'll spare your life then. Su Yifeng's voice rose from the crowd. The disciples standing behind Long Chun took a step back, bracing themselves for what might come next. Their eyes were fixed on Long Chun, as were the gazes of those from the other races. They could see that Long Chun's gaze was icy with killing intent. A pack of fools. I'm not going to argue with you. What I have decided on, not even the heavens can change. Since I've helped them, I will carry all consequences for my actions. If anyone doesn't like it, come at me. In truth, the essence blood of weaklings isn't very useful. I feel like using the blood of the strong to activate this formation will have an even better effect. Long Chen's cold response was aimed directly at Su Yifeng. Long Chun was well aware of Su Yifeng's sinister intentions, as the latter not only sought to spark conflict within the human race but also to make Long Chun a primary target. In his fury, Long Chun couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. With his killing intent on the verge of going out of control, he didn't want to explain himself. He knew that before talking reason, absolute power was required. Ha ha ha! What arrogance! You think that you can fight the entire human race by yourself? No, you will be fighting all life forms within the 9 heavens and 10 lands, declared Su Yifeng. What a loathsome fellow. He's intentionally fanning the flames. Boss, let me kill him. Even the ever-calm Yu Zifeng lost his patience. All of them could see that Su Yifeng was a sinister person. Once the other races came, did he really think that they would only target Long Chen? All humans would be their target. What was most infuriating was the fact that numerous individuals were blindly supporting Su Yifeng, oblivious to the fact that their actions were jeopardizing the entire human race. Outside the martial stage, the human experts were frantic. They already had bad relationships with other races. If they were to face all their wrath together, the human race would take hideous losses. They might even be completely wiped out. However, there was nothing they could do. They could only see what was going on, and their voices were unable to reach the inside of the barrier. There seems to be a problem with the Su family. Bai Shishir's mother watched from the plaza. Seeing Sui Feng trying so hard to cause trouble, she felt that this matter wasn't so simple. It's not just him. Many others are doing the same thing as them secretly, said Bai Shaola's mother. Long Chun, are you even a man? Kill him. Bai Zhantong felt like he might explode from rage. He knew that his voice couldn't reach Long Chun, but he still felt the need to vent. Su family, is your family's brat an idiot? Is he trying to get all the human race's disciples killed? Someone finally cursed the violet blood race's Su family. The speaker was an innate heaven venerate. His grandson was inside the formation and being protected by Long Chun, so he was naturally worried about him. This grandson of his was the only remnant of his bloodline. The violet blood race's Su family didn't have their own palace, standing in some abandoned empty land that they had claimed for themselves. Countless curses rained down on them. However, their people were icily arrogant and ignored all the curses. But finally, one of them shouted back, "Are you blind? Long Chun has broken the rules of the Sage King Convention, and now the martial stage can't be activated. Without it, how will my violet blood race's heavenly genius obtain the title of Sage King? The path of cultivation is one where the weak are devoured by the strong. This is an iron law of the cultivation world. Who is Long Chun to act like some saint? You ants can only spray your saliva. If you don't like it, go ahead and try to fight my violet blood race." His shout echoed like rolling thunder, shaking people's ears with its overwhelming and tyrannical arrogance. You're going too far," raged another expert, but they were powerless to do anything to the Su family. After all, the latter was too powerful. They had hundreds of innate heaven venerates on their side and tens of thousands of ordinary heaven venerates. Furthermore, even their ordinary heaven venerates had auras on par with regular innate heaven venerates. This was to be expected as the violet blood race was one of the strongest bloodlines in the primal chaos era. Even the declined version of them wasn't something that normal experts could contend with. However, their tone still infuriated countless people. According to the Su family's perspective, it wasn't just their disciples who should perish. Even they, the leaders, should meet the same fate, for the weak did not deserve to survive. Palace Master, you're overseeing the High Firmament Academy. As a representative of the human race, could you oversee justice for this? Evidently, news of the Palace Master's ability to intimidate the head of the Su family with just a glance had circulated widely. So someone shouted toward the High Firmament Academy's side. It was clear that the Su family was afraid of this mysterious Palace Master. Thus, at this moment, with the Su family acting arrogant, someone sincerely asked for aid from the Palace Master. When everyone's gazes fell on him, the Palace Master smiled and then said something that left everyone gobsmacked. The weak truly aren't qualified to be arrogant. The Palace Master's words were like a bucket of ice water over them, turning countless people's hearts cold. What was going on? Was the Palace Master also afraid of the Su family? He didn't dare to fight them? However, the Palace Master then turned to the Su family's people. He smiled widely, revealing his white teeth. That's why, in a bit, when your Su family's disciples are slain, don't come crying to me. Otherwise, I'll wring your heads off one by one. The Palace Master's words caused the expressions of the Su family's experts to change. His tone was full of arrogance and disdain. The Su family was one of the heirs to the violet blood race, one of the strongest bloodlines within heaven and earth. Just how illustrious was that status? No one had ever dared to speak to them that way before. On the other hand, the others were excited. The Palace Master was clearly looking down on the Su family. According to him, the weak shouldn't live, and it included the Su family. At least, that was in the view of the Palace Master. The Su family head's expression sank, his anger undeniable. Although he was restrained by the power of the palace master, he was not willing to endure such insolence. Kill my Su family's disciples? I want to see just who has that ability, he retorted coldly. The palace master simply smiled and didn't reply. He then turned back to the martial stage. At this moment, the people on the martial stage had no idea what was going on in the outside world and were looking at Long Chun. Long Chun, you broke the rules, and now the Sage King convention can't start. If you still have some sense of shame, you'll kill yourself right here and now. You want to be a saint and support the weak? Alright, then use your blood to activate the Sage King martial stage, sneered the Su family's people. That's right, you should all die. If you all die, the martial stage will activate. Those weaklings can then be spared. Hurry up and die. More and more human experts began to shout along with the Su family's people. Boss, please, I can't endure it any longer. Guyang clenched his fists furiously. It's a trap. If we were to attack, we'd be jumping into the trap and playing according to the tune of the Su family and the others, said Meng Qi, standing by Long Chen's side. Trap or not, it has nothing to do with us. I don't care about the tune either. I'm just waiting for an opportunity and a reason, said Long Chun. Although his expression was dark, his eyes were calm, like the calm before the storm. Those familiar with Long Chun knew that there would be a heaven-shaking tempest after this calm. You weaklings, there's no need to force Big Brother Long Chun. I know I am weak. Without Big Brother Long Chun, I'd already be dead. I just hope that after I die you won't make things hard on him. Otherwise, I won't let you off even as a ghost. Suddenly, a person in the crowd behind Long Chun stepped forward. Don't! Long Chun was startled and shot toward that person. But with so many people in his way, he was one step too slow. When Long Chun grabbed him, the latter had taken his life, his soul extinguished. This young-looking man, seemingly in his teenage years, likely carried a strong sense of pride in normal circumstances. However, the relentless barrage of insults had pushed him past his breaking point. Long Chen's body trembled with seething rage. Furthermore, at this moment, an invisible force descended, causing that person's body to rapidly wither, sucking his essence blood dry. That person's death pained the others who had been saved. After all, many of them were prideful figures, and enduring such humiliation and insults while being powerless was too much for them. As a result, many people really did begin to raise their hands. All of you stop! Long Chun let out a furious roar that resembled the bellow of a dragon, causing people's ears to ring and making them stagger. Long Chun, do you see? He killed himself for you. As for you, didn't you want to be some hero or saint? What are you waiting for? Just kill yourself. Get your good reputation. Ha ha ha. Laughter came from the Su family's side. Fine. I'm not waiting. I can't wait any longer. Long Chun gritted his teeth, his eyes turning scarlet as he spoke through clenched jaws. When his gaze fixed upon that Su family disciple, the latter immediately went rigid. An overwhelming sense of dread emanated from Long Chun, piercing deep into the disciple's very soul. Long Chun suddenly extended a hand and golden dragon scales covered his palm. The next moment, a powerful suction force twisted the space around that disciple. Seeing this scene, Sui Feng and the others were startled and hastily reached out to grab that disciple. But they were one step too late, only grabbing his afterimage. That disciple was involuntarily flying toward Long Chun. With his dragon claw, Long Chun tightly gripped this disciple's neck, terrifying him. In front of Long Chun, it was like his cultivation base was completely gone. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist. A little double supreme dares to act so arrogant? Does the Su family not teach you how to behave? Long Chun looked at that disciple, his eyes full of sinister killing intent. Long Chun, release him, otherwise dash, shouted Sui Feng. But midway through he shut his own mouth. That was because he saw wet spots spreading on that disciple's crotch. That disciple was so terrified that he was pissing himself. Now, countless people looked at the Su family scornfully. Sui Feng was enraged. This disciple had lost the face of the Su family, and now Sui Feng didn't even want to threaten Long Chun anymore. You tell others to kill themselves, but you're so afraid of death yourself. You normally act like aloof gods that can decide other people's fates, but when death comes for you, you instantly collapse. If you feel such an attachment to the world of the living, how can you so fervently take other people's lives? Is it that your Sioux family's people are people, but other people are ants? Does being stronger mean that you can trample the weak to death? Only then will you appear strong, huh? You keep saying something about weaklings being stepping stones for the strong. Well, I went from a weakling to where I am now. You say that the weak are consumed by the strong? That this is the law of the cultivation world? Why don't you go fuck yourself? If this is a law, then today, I declare to this dog's-hit world that I am going to change this world's laws. Long Chen's voice grew louder and louder until it was like thunder shaking the sky. He was declaring war on the entire world, on the very laws of heaven and earth. The entire martial stage rumbled because of his oath. I, Long Chun, am always forced to passively defend. But today, I'll use your fresh blood as a sacrifice to this world. A violet blood flower slowly grew on Long Chen's hand as he crushed that disciple's neck. This violet blood slowly merged into the void. But compared to other people's blood, this violet blood was absorbed much slower. As a result, everyone could witness the entire process of how it gradually vanished. Long Chun, Su Yifeng and Su Exiner, as well as the rest of the Su family's disciples, roared with fury. Long Chun was also declaring war against their Su family. Today, if a single person from your Su family lives to walk off the martial stage, I, Long Chun, will kill myself on the martial stage. Long Chun issued a shocking oath in front of these enraged experts. Following his declaration, he moved like a golden lightning bolt, shooting directly into their midst. You want to die that badly, huh? Su Yifeng roared furiously. The fact that one of the Su family's disciples had pissed himself had deeply humiliated them. This humiliation filled Su Yifeng with rage, causing his murderous intent to surge. Should we join in? Guoran was itching for a fight upon seeing Long Chun charge out. No rush. Things aren't as simple as it seems. Just prepare for battle, said Meng Qi. With Meng Qi here, Tang Wan'er, Bai Shishir, Yu Qingxian, Yi Zhiqiu, and Dong Mingyu all listened to her. Just like Long Chun, Meng Qi had the qualities of a leader. However, the difference was that Long Chun was an extroverted leader, while Meng Qi was leaning more toward introversion. Long Chen's leadership charisma stemmed from his unmatched power and determination to face life and death together with his brothers. As for Meng Qi's quality was a silent one that might not be visible on the surface. However, she silently won people over, making them respect and listen to her. Thus, when Meng Qi spoke, even Guoran, the general of the Dragonblood Legion, wouldn't dare to defy her. Long Chun had set out alone, charging toward the Su family's camp. Your talent for malicious slander isn't bad. You are clearly the instigator here, but you say that I'm the one with a death wish. Let's see just who wants to die more. Long Chun shot into the air. All the Su family's experts took out their weapons. However, Su Yifeng flew out alone to face Long Chun. He's mine. I will personally wring off his head. Su Yifeng sneered at Long Chun. As violet marks flowed on top of his fist, its sheer force seemed to shake the very heavens and earth. I will kill you within 10 moves. If you can endure 10 moves from me, I will personally give you my head, sneered Long Chun, smashing his own fist at him. Long Chen's fight with the Su family drew the attention of the outside world's experts. They all wanted to see this battle. It had to be known that the Violet blood race was one of the strongest bloodlines of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. In particular, Su Yifeng was the strongest disciple of his generation in the Su family, so everyone wanted to see just how powerful the legendary Violet blood divine abilities were. In the same vein, although Long Chen's background was not as great, he still came from the most ancient academy of the 9 heavens and 10 lands, their youngest dean in all of history. To be able to sit in that position, he must be the most outstanding disciple of the High Firmament Academy. One was the strongest monster of the Violet blood race, and the other was the strongest disciple of an ancient academy. Just what kind of chaos would erupt between the two of them? Their battle became the focus of everyone inside and outside the martial stage. As a result, countless people were making their own guesses as to just which one was stronger. However, when both of them said that they would kill the other party in 10 moves, everyone gasped. With this, they not only decided who was stronger and weaker but also life and death. Boom! Under countless people's gazes, Long Chun and Su Yifeng's fists clashed, its impact causing golden and violet light to erupt and the entire martial stage to quiver. Astral winds raged and a violent pressure pushed countless people backward. The bricks on the martial stage creaked and let out an ear-piercing sound as if invisible blades were streaking across the stage. Following that, there was another explosive sound. The force field around them went from a few dozen meters to thousands of miles in an instant. What terrifying power! Those outside the martial stage cried out in shock. This level of power had almost reached the same as that of an innate heaven venerate. Clearly, their first blow had only been a probing blow, and only now were they starting to use their real power. The bricks on the stage shattered, their exceptional durability, surpassing that of even world-domain divine items, were unable to endure their overwhelming power. You dare to act arrogant with this little bit of power? To use your Su family's words, weaklings like you aren't fit to live in this world, sneered Long Chun. Su Yifeng sneered back. If I killed you in one move, it would be too boring. I'm only using 1/10 of my power right now. As for you, you're already forced to use your full might. 10%. Everyone was shocked, unable to believe their ears. This fellow had to be bragging, right? 10% of his power was this terrifying? If that was the case, then even innate heaven venerates weren't a match for him. My full power? Alright, then I'll show you what my full power looks like. Suddenly, the space behind Long Chun exploded. When a 7-colored divine ring appeared, his aura erupted like a volcano that had been suppressed for billions of years. The martial stage beneath Long Chun's feet then exploded, sending bits of stone flying. As for Su Yifeng, he let out a grunt and was forced back 7 steps. Every step he took caused the bricks beneath him to shatter. On the 7th step, he let out a shout, stamping a hole in the martial stage and finally stabilizing himself. We're finally seeing Boss's divine ring again. When the Dragonblood warriors saw that divine ring with all its majesty again, they clenched their fists. This image awakened the battle intent within them. Their blood was set ablaze, as though they had returned to the time on the martial heaven continent, where they followed Long Chun on an unstoppable sweep through their enemies' ranks. The 7-colored divine ring made heaven and earth quiver. As astral winds raged around Long Chun, he appeared to be an undefeatable god of war, an existence that others could not touch. Just releasing his new aura was enough to send Su Yifeng flying. As a result, countless people were shocked by Long Chun's power. As a person, you should know respect and gratitude. If a person lacks that, how are they any different from an animal? Long Chun looked at Su Yifeng disdainfully, appearing far above him. The current 7-colored divine ring had reached its full power. When it appeared, heaven and earth submitted, while the 10,000 Daos kneeled. Long Chun could even sense a few things through his divine ring. However, he had no time to waste. His only thought was to kill Su Yifeng. Only by taking down this troublemaker could he hope to pacify the internal strife. Otherwise, if the human race were to be thrown into a battle amongst themselves, it would create an opening for the other races to exploit, spelling certain doom for humanity. Long Chun was far from a saint. He had never thought about saving every single person, but if the rest of the human race were crushed, his Dragonblood Legion would have to stand alone against the experts of all the other races. Despite their formidable strength, casualties would be inevitable, and that was something Long Chun could not accept. Thus, Long Chun was going to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys, and the chicken was Su Yifeng. Long Chun's divine ring quivered as he began to walk towards Su Yifeng. With each step he took, the hearts of countless onlookers seemed to tighten in unison, synchronizing their beats with Long Chun's strides. Ha ha ha! Interesting. Suddenly Su Yifeng laughed. Rather than fear, it seemed that Long Chun's power excited him. It seems that I also have to take this seriously. Violet blood dyes the sky. Su Yifeng yelled out, and violet divine radiance descended from the heavens as he summoned his manifestation. Following Su Yifeng's roar, the violet qi around him surged, forming a sea of violet qi. This violet qi even passed through the barrier around the martial stage. The next moment, the entire Sage King prefecture darkened. The land was cast in violet light. What a terrifying manifestation! It even passed through the martial stage's barrier. It lives up to being one of the strongest bloodlines of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Anywhere the violet qi covers is his domain. Even the heavenly Daos have submitted. It really is incredible. This is the true unrivaled bloodline. I've never seen a person's manifestation capable of causing such a disturbance. Su Yifeng's manifestation left countless people astonished as it demonstrated the ability to pass through the barrier. Even the senior experts stood in stunned disbelief. The fact that Su Yifeng's manifestation could traverse the barrier implied that he could access the energy outside of the barrier. Meanwhile, those confined within were restricted to the power in it. In an instant, he had placed himself in an undefeatable position. As the rumbling sound came from Su Yifeng's manifestation, a violet sea roared, sending huge waves soaring into the heavens. Its aura was suffocating. Su Yifeng locked eyes with Long Chen, who in turn focused not directly on Su Yifeng but on the violet blood manifestation standing behind him. Long Chen's gaze was sharp. He seemed to be pondering something. As for Su Yifeng, seeing him thinking, he actually thought that Long Chen was scared. What? Are you afraid? It might be too early for that. I've only taken out 50% of my power at most. Bring out your full power. I don't want to waste time. Otherwise, once I attack, you will only be able to feel regret in the other world, said Long Chen as he pulled his gaze from Su Yifeng's manifestation and turned to look at him. Su Yifeng's words were already shocking enough, but Long Chen's words were even more arrogant. People couldn't believe their ears. Just what were these fellows saying? Su Yifeng was not even in his combat state, but he was already this powerful. As for Long Chen, he said that in this state, Su Yifeng would not be able to fight back once he attacked. He was even saying that Su Yifeng would be directly killed. Although they couldn't say that Long Chen was simply bragging, they felt that this was too exaggerated. People refused to believe it and couldn't accept it. Ha ha ha! Su Yifeng laughed. In his view, Long Chen had been stunned by his manifestation. For him to now say something so arrogant, he sneered. You really are an ant who doesn't know how high the heavens are. Even bragging has a limit. You are not qualified to be arrogant in front of me. Su Yifeng finally made his move. Stamping on the air, he crossed the distance between them with a single step and smashed a fist down. Even before his fist landed, countless cracks already appeared in the void. It was as if heaven and earth were unable to contain his power. Starry Sea. Countless stars appeared within the divine ring behind Long Chen. They were like a sea of stars. Earth's violet qi. Violet qi burst out of the starry sea, turning the stars violet. Long Chen had summoned his own manifestation. This was his first time summoning it ever since his violet tower star had reached its peak. As violet qi raged within the starry sea, Long Chen calmly unleashed his own fist. Despite attacking second, his fist arrived first. Boom! With an explosive sound, the entire martial stage rocked like a boat on a stormy sea. The seawater around the martial stage became a tsunami crashing into the buildings on the land of the prefecture. Countless people were blasted by it. When the seawater passed and the onlookers looked back at the martial stage, they gasped. The cracks on the martial stage beneath Long Chen's feet had spread tens of thousands of miles. As for Su Yifeng, he was blown back wretchedly, retreating 8 steps before stabilizing himself. Look! Suddenly, someone pointed at the sky. At some point, above the 9 heavens, stars had appeared, making this world feel as if it was beneath a sea of stars. Is this Long Chen's manifestation? People looked at the starry sea in the divine ring behind Long Chen and then at the sea of stars above them. Su Yifeng's manifestation was capable of spreading outside the barrier. That was shocking, but they felt that this was still understandable. After all, he possessed one of the strongest bloodlines of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. However, Long Chun had no such thing, but he was still capable of summoning such a terrifying manifestation. Furthermore, people didn't even know the origins of this manifestation. Only the experts from the Starry River sect looked at this sea of stars excitedly and reverently. They knew that this was the strongest manifestation of the Starry River sect. Su Feng was forced to use his full power just to stabilize himself, causing the ground beneath him to erupt. This time he was genuinely infuriated, feeling like he was being toyed with. His confidence was given a blow. Watch out! When Su Xiner's startled cry rang out in his ear, he felt a chill behind him. Almost instinctively, he threw himself to the side. Just as he retreated, a golden dragon claw appeared in front of him. Had he been even slightly slower, it would have torn through him. Everyone was startled. They then looked to see that Long Chun was still in the distance, so their first thought was that someone had launched a sneak attack on Sui Feng. However, they quickly realized that the master of the dragon claw was precisely Long Chun. At this moment, a pair of golden wings materialized on Long Chun's back. Those were Kunping wings. When they saw this, that Long Chun standing in the distance vanished from their sight. It was nothing more than an afterimage. How can this be? How can he have such terrifying speed? People were stunned, especially the experts outside. Long Chun hadn't used illusory or bewildering techniques. His speed was just so fast that it had broken the limits of perception. The Su family's experts, along with those from the demonic beast and Kunping races, all had their expressions change when they saw Long Chun's wings. It was clear to them that Long Chun had refined a pair of Kunping wings. This was a disgrace to the Kunping race. Long Chun's attack shook heaven and earth, yet his face was still calm. At this moment, everyone could see specks of violet blood staining his palm. Long Chun slowly raised his hand and sniffed the violet blood on it. In an instant, his killing intent rose to the peak. As expected, you really have betrayed the violet blood race. Then there's nothing to say. You can all just die. Long Chun's Kunping wings quivered. Like an ancient beast, countless afterimages appeared in the air as he shot after Sui Feng. Long Chun's speed was too fast, leaving behind countless afterimages. It seemed as though he barely moved, but he had already arrived in front of Sui Feng. Sui Feng was taken aback. Moments ago, he had narrowly escaped death, and now Long Chun was already closing in once more. Not daring to face Long Chun head-on again, he used his violet chi to retreat. Boom! Long Chun's fist blew apart space, creating a visible void that expanded and retracted into his hand. His fist swiftly turned and struck again. A deafening rumble echoed as Long Chun's fist cleaved through space. In its wake, a wide gulf appeared in the void. What? Following that, the Su family's experts jumped. The reason this attack missed was not because Sui Feng had managed to retreat so amazingly. Instead, Long Chun seemed to have expected him to run, so he let his power erupt in the void, only to use some mysterious power to seal it later. The force of the initial strike didn't dissipate. Instead, it merged seamlessly with the second attack. Long Chun effectively combined the power of both attacks. This kind of layering technique could not be considered rare as many people knew similar techniques. However, this kind of technique was a double-sided sword. If it was interrupted, you would receive a backlash from the power that you were storing. In other words, one mistake and you would lose your life. Considering just how powerful Sui Feng was, who would dare to use such a technique against him? Furthermore, when Long Chun first attacked, everyone saw that he hadn't intended to use this kind of layering attack. It was only when Sui Feng retreated that Long Chun released his power into the void and then retracted it. It was entirely done on the spot. This seemingly simple move showed that Long Chun's control over his power had reached the pinnacle, shaking many of the experts here. This battle reaction was definitely tempered through blood and fire. It was not something that could be taught. "Hurry and interrupt him!" shouted an expert of the Su family from the outside. However, in his panic, he forgot that the barrier blocked all sound. However, even without this warning, Sui Feng also had a bad feeling. With this retreat of his, Long Chen had actually managed to push him into a passive position. Long Chen's fist once more smashed toward him, giving him no time to breathe. This time, if he were to retreat, Long Chen might layer his power once more. The power of 3 punches in one. That kind of fist wasn't something that Sui Feng dared to receive. Sui Feng roared. An expression of struggle appeared on his face. The next moment, violet runes began to surge over his arms, causing his sleeves to burst apart, exposing arms that appeared to be crafted from violet iron. This was a unique divine ability of the violet blood race. Boom! As Long Chen's fist smashed into Sui Feng's arms, a metallic sound rang out and some sparks of fire flew. Bracing against the impact, Sui Feng's body trembled, and his feet gouged a lengthy trench into the martial stage as he was propelled backward. He was forced back 10 miles before stopping. When people looked at Sui Feng, they were shocked to see that his metallic arms were now covered in cracks. On the other hand, they could see stars revolving around Long Chen's fist. The starry light contained endless divine might. The starry river sect's disciples cheered when they saw that fist, wearing worshipful expressions. It was clearly the highest technique of the starry river sect. Furthermore, Long Chen had selflessly shared this technique with them. Regretfully, their aptitude was limited, and so far none of them had managed to master this technique. However, seeing Long Chen use it, it felt like they were seeing their own future. That apocalyptic astral energy made them feel endlessly excited. In truth, many people didn't know of Long Chen's connection with the Starry River sect. However, seeing the reaction of the Starry River sect's experts, they realized the origin of this technique. Long Chen and Sui Feng continued to stare at each other, frozen in their positions. One was still in his punching posture, and the other was still in his blocking posture. For a moment, everyone was silent. The Su family's disciples were stunned. They had never dreamed that Long Chen could be so powerful. Suddenly, Sui Feng finally couldn't endure it anymore, and blood sprayed out of his mouth. Sui Feng was injured? They hadn't expected victory to be decided so quickly. Ha ha ha! To their surprise, Sui Feng laughed rather sinisterly, and his violet eyes changed, having a trace of black to them now. Ha 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 ha! His laughter continued, becoming increasingly loud, accompanied by a growing sinister aura that seemed to consume him. His aura also transformed as though there was something possessing him. "Has this fellow gone insane after being beaten by boss?" asked Guoran curiously. Meng Qi shook her head. "No, there is another kind of energy within this fellow. Although it's not powerful, it is a flame seed. I think Long Chen deduced that these people were traitors of the violet blood race based on this flame seed." Just then, the void rumbled and the violet blood manifestation behind Sui Feng began to shake. It was like some monster was about to break free from the manifestation. "Long Chen, you really surprised me. That attack of yours let me sense your true power. Fine, I also have no need to raise my power bit by bit anymore. In any case, the title of Sage King will be mine. Today, I will tell all the 10,000 races that no one can stop the rise of the violet blood race." Sui Feng raised his head and roared, his hair flying chaotically around him. As the violet qi behind him began to boil, his power climbed crazily. Long Chen looked at the crazed Sui Feng and shook his head. "When it comes to individuals who are at least your equal, there may not be 100, but there are certainly around 80. And amongst those 80, the ones who can kill you outnumber those you can count on your fingers. I really don't know where this confidence of yours comes from." "Shut up." The crazed Sui Feng stopped boasting and directly shot at Long Chen. Upon looking at his eyes now, startled cries rang out from the crowd. Sui Feng's violet eyes were now marred by many black spots. His appearance was frightening. Furthermore, his face had also changed. His originally handsome features were now twisted with malevolence. Boom! Suddenly, the martial stage beneath Sui Feng's feet exploded, and the Su family head, who had been quietly watching this entire time, smiled. "It's over. Die." Sui Feng suddenly shot into motion. His violet sea ignited, and an enormous claw reached out of his manifestation. Boom! As the claw fell, it smashed into where Long Chan had been, creating a giant pit. Due to the impact, a wave rose out of the land like a meteorite falling into a lake, and countless bricks went flying in every direction. When these bricks struck the barrier, they exploded, causing tiny ripples to appear in the barrier. As for the experts on the martial stage, they cried out and blocked the bricks flying at them. After all, the bricks were tougher than world domain divine items, and for the majority of people they could be fatal. Unfortunately, countless experts were unable to dodge the bricks and had to face them directly. As a result, some were blown apart by these bricks. The weaker experts behind the Dragonblood Legion cried out, but the next moment, the earth in front of them rose, being conjured into a giant wall of earth. The wall shuddered upon the impact of those flying bricks, but it still perfectly blocked all of them. After that, it merged back into the earth as if it had never appeared. Those people that Long Chen had saved were shocked. They didn't even know who had done this. On the other hand, the Dragonblood warriors were excited. They naturally knew that it was Li Qi and Song Mingyuan's work. However, neither of them had moved a single finger, yet they still effortlessly blocked this attack. After they all were separated, the two of them dedicated themselves tirelessly to their cultivation, not daring to slack off in the slightest because they knew that their boss had to be working even harder. Now that the four captains were gathered, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan were able to shock everyone with a casual move. As fellow Dragonblood warriors, they were incredibly proud. Compared to the Dragonblood Legion side, the others were not so fortunate. Although this was nothing to peak experts, not everyone was so powerful. Furthermore, not everyone was like the Dragonblood Legion and looking out for others. The human race was closest to the battlefield, and after that wave of flying bricks, at least thousands of unlucky souls died. However, the lives of the weak were viewed as highly as blades of grass. No one paid them any attention. Everyone's eyes were on the battlefield. They stared at where Long Chan had been, looking at the giant hole and an enormous claw embedded into it. Did he die? No one could see where he was. Sui Feng's attack had truly been fast and without warning. No, he's not dead. Look up. Following that person's gaze, they saw Long Chan in the sky, his starry sea shining in his divine ring. With his Kuanping wings lightly flapped, he looked like a divine warrior of the starry sky, overlooking all others. That appearance was indescribably domineering and aloof. What speed! He is even capable of dodging such an attack. From high above, Long Chen coldly looked down at Sui Feng. Your Su family really is a pack of fools. Just how noble is the violet blood race. But you actually chose to stain your blood. Unable to awaken its power on your own, you actually resorted to absorbing the devil chi. However, violet blood rejects devil chi, causing it to ignite. Although it unleashes great power, you are destroying the core of the violet blood, causing its purity to plummet. It's like putting the cart in front of the horse, drinking poison to quench your thirst. For a temporary gain, you've lost the true treasure. Most importantly, this action is no different than tarnishing the glory of your ancestors. You have already betrayed the violet blood race. Bullshit! Su Yifeng roared, causing the earth to explode as he withdrew his claw from the martial stage. What gives you the audacity to criticize my violet blood race? He really does have the qualifications, this I guarantee. Just then, a voice rang out from the human race's side. It wasn't loud, but it entered everyone's ears clearly, both within the martial stage and outside. It was like it was the voice of heaven and earth, forming a resonance with the heavenly Taos. Countless people were shocked, including all the innate heaven venerates. This kind of resonance with the heavenly Taos was something only eternal experts could accomplish. Only when one could control the power of the 10,000 Taos, grasp the secrets of eternal life, and possess longevity as long as the heavens, could they cause heaven and earth to resonate with their voice. However, upon hearing this voice, Long Chen's face didn't even twitch. Without looking back, he already knew who the speaker was. On the other hand, Sui Feng was shocked and enraged by it. He then looked toward the crowd to see an icily arrogant man looking at him disdainfully. Heavenly divinity race? Long clan? When Sui Feng saw the marks on this person's robes, he narrowed his eyes. What? Does your Long clan wish to fight my Su family? Everyone's focus transferred from Long Chun and Sui Feng to that man. When Guoran and the others saw him, they couldn't help but let out startled cries. Long Outyen. That person was precisely Long Outyen. Today's Long Outyen was wearing robes with a golden dragon mark on his sleeves and collar. That was the mark of the Eternal Clan, a member of the heavenly divinity race, the Long Clan. Hundreds of thousands of Long Clan disciples stood with Long Outyen, each emanating remarkable auras. Among them were several individuals whose mere gaze sent shivers down one's spine. They were true experts among experts. Long Outyen sneered at Sui Feng. Your Su family is a pack of idiots. Can your people even be compared to my Long clan? Are you trying to gild your own face? You! Sui Feng was enraged. Their Su family had no enmity with the Long clan, and he didn't even know Long Outyen. Thus, Long Outyen must be harboring ill intentions by targeting him at this moment. The Su family's disciples were seething with anger as well, including the ones outside the barrier. The Long clan was suddenly targeting them? Just what were they trying to do? Don't misunderstand. Your Su family has been crippled, and your violet blood has been ruined. Don't even think of coming into contact with higher-level divine abilities of the violet blood race in this lifetime. After saying that, Long Outyen turned to Long Chun. So, I've been waiting a long time. Rather than wasting so much time, why don't you directly kill this idiot? Let us resolve our enmities. If you feel like killing him would take too much effort and you would be at a disadvantage against me, then that's fine too. I can help you kill him. Countless people stared at Long Outyen in shock. Some couldn't even believe their own ears. Long Outyen's words shocked countless people. It seemed that to him, killing Sui Feng was nothing difficult at all. It had to be known that the current Sui Feng had unleashed immense power. His attack just now was something that even innate heaven venerates would avoid. Although Long Chun had managed to dodge it, that didn't prove that he had the power to beat Sui Feng. Now, Long Outyen simply appeared and made it sound like killing Sui Feng was very easy for him or Long Chun, stunning everyone. In front of Long Outyen, someone who had stolen his spirit blood, spirit root, and spirit bone, Long Chun only wanted to tear apart his corpse into 10,000 pieces. However, after his hatred reached the limit, he actually became calm. He indifferently said, "He is just a self-important ant. Killing him won't take too much energy. Thus, if you wish to attack, you can start at any point. You don't need to worry about him." Long Outyen and Long Chen's words were like a bomb in Sui Feng's ears. He felt like he would explode. Die! With a furious roar, his manifestation quivered and he shot at Long Chun like a shooting star. After that, violet chi condensed into a violet domain around him and Long Chun. Sui Feng had summoned a domain so that Long Chun couldn't dodge, and then he smashed his fist at him. Although he had a sword hanging on his waist, since Long Chun hadn't used a weapon, even in his incensed state, his pride did not permit him to draw his blade first. Drawing stars into the body, 1,000-star fist. 1,000 stars lit up within the endless stars behind him. At the same time, people felt the stars above their heads brighten as well. It seemed like the stars above the 9 heavens were resonating with him. Seeing this, the Starry River sect's disciples cheered. This was the pinnacle technique of their sect, drawing the power of the stars into their bodies, employing the strength of flesh and blood to harness astral energy. However, even the most talented amongst them were only able to draw the power of a few dozen stars. Even the strongest was unable to reach the realm of 100 stars. In contrast, Long Chun had the capacity to directly tap into the power of 1,000 stars. As they gazed upon his arm, they witnessed numerous stars gleaming upon it, coalescing into the starry arm reminiscent of the star diagram they had encountered in their palace. Boom! A fist enveloped in violet chi clashed with a fist radiating the light of 1,000 stars. A brilliant white light then erupted in every direction, akin to a sun exploding, blinding people. Even before everyone's vision returned, they heard the sound of someone coughing up blood. After that, they saw Sui Feng flying back, blood dripping down his mouth. How can this be? The Su family's experts were left dumbfounded, including their family head. He was well aware of Sui Feng's power. In that state, he was almost unrivaled. However, he continued to face consecutive defeats at the hands of Long Chun. The Su family's people on the martial stage didn't dare to believe their eyes. In front of them, the unbeatable Sui Feng was repeatedly blown back. Long Chun didn't chase him and instead looked at his own arm. The stars flowed on top of it with endless power. The Dragon Senior was right. As long as the physical body is strong enough, other divine abilities and battle skills can be grasped by reaching out a hand. The foundation of the starry river of the sky art is a powerful physical body. Only when the physical body is strong enough can it contain the power of the stars. With the power of the stars, who could be a match for you? Long Chen smiled. Suddenly, Long Chen's wings flapped, and he vanished without a trace. At that exact moment, Sui Feng's hair stood on end. His sword then came flying out of its sheath, accompanied by a violet streak of light that cut the void cleanly. Seeing this scene, countless people felt a stinging pain in their souls as if they had been cut as well. Eternal divine weapon! Startled cries rang out. That was definitely an eternal sword, and an extremely terrifying one at that. Sui Feng was actually capable of using such a weapon. However, after this attack, Sui Feng's expression changed. He actually missed. Pow! A hand covered in stars slapped him solidly across the face from a strange angle. The power of this slap was absolutely vicious. Like a shooting star, Sui Feng was sent flying once more toward the Su family's camp. Dodge! Su Exiner shouted. But this warning came too late as Sui Feng already smashed into their midst. A few conceited experts of the Su family actually reached out to catch him. As a result, the moment Sui Feng touched them, they exploded. Dozens of the Su family's experts died in an instant, and only then did Sui Feng manage to stop himself. When he did manage to stop himself, everyone was shocked to see that other than a very firm handprint on his face, he didn't seem to be the slightest bit injured. How vicious! He used his own family's people to dissipate boss's astral energy. The Su family really does follow their principles. The weak should die, sneered Guyang. Hearing this, only then did the others understand. No wonder Sui Feng wasn't injured. It seemed that he had found a few scapegoats for himself. No wonder their souls had also been exterminated. How vicious! Amongst them were two supreme heavenly geniuses. People clicked their tongues. Sui Feng was truly a vicious character. He didn't even let off his own people. Endless violet chi. Heavenly sword slash. Sui Feng bellowed with rage, raising his sword toward the sky before slashing it downward at Long Chun. He had used those disciples to unload Long Chen's astral energy, and had then seized this opportunity to launch a counterattack. Boom! Just as Sui Feng's sword fell, Long Chen's expression completely changed. The next moment, his wings flapped and he vanished. This startled everyone. What had happened? Did Long Chun not dare to receive Sui Feng's attack? However, their question was quickly answered. A while ago, the barrier on top of the martial stage had started quivering, and now a ray of divine light shot down at the center of the martial stage. Long Chun and Sui Feng were located right there. Fortunately, Long Chun had immediately sensed it and retreated. Anyway, with Sui Feng's will and spiritual strength, it was impossible for him to lock Long Chun down. Even his violet chi domain only allowed him to sense Long Chen's position, not restrict his movements. As a result, Sui Feng was dumbfounded by Long Chen's retreat. Now that his sword was falling, there was no way to stop it. Right now, it appeared as if his sword wasn't slashing at Long Chun. Instead, it was targeting the pillar of divine light shooting out of the formation. Sui Feng almost went crazy. No matter how conceited he was, he would not dare to go against the attack of an ancient formation. Sui Feng suddenly spat out blood. Although he had managed to stop his sword, he had also suffered a fierce backlash. Yet, he paid it no heed and hastily fled the scene. Boom! He had barely moved before that ray of divine light smashed down, instantly enveloping him. With a heaven-shaking explosion, that pillar of divine light smashed into the core of the martial stage. Its outer edge devoured Sui Feng. Boom! The next moment, the incomparably tough barrier at the heart of the martial stage shattered. Only then did people realize that while Long Chun and Sui Feng had been fighting, the formation had been gathering power. And just as Sui Feng smashed apart the people of his Su family, the formation's power seemed to have reached a peak, causing it to unleash this devastating attack. Long Chun had immediately fled, but Sui Feng reacted too slowly and was caught in that attack. Although he was only brushed against its outer edge, he still screamed as half of his body instantly vanished. Even with his power, he didn't have the slightest ability to resist. If he had fled any slower, he wouldn't have survived. As the barrier at the center of the martial stage exploded, creating a path, countless experts crazily flooded toward it. Damnable human race scram! The experts of the various races poured toward that channel. Thus, even with that enormous opening, it was overcrowded. When everyone got too close, threats and fights broke out. Then the devil race's experts launched the first attack. Damnable devil race! Face your deaths! The human race refused to appear weaker. In this state, retreat would cause them to lose out on their chance to win the Sage King convention. If they didn't go all out now, when would they? As a result, a giant flood of experts from every race crashed into the passageway. Kill! Countless lifeforms roared. Everyone was in a crazy state as it was either kill or die. Unless you wished to give up the position of Sage King, you had to go all out. Boss! Guoran looked at Longchen. Since everyone else was already charging forward, Guoran was asking permission to do the same. No rush. Long Chun had been fighting Sui Feng, but now he had lost track of him. After all, Sui Feng had been near the core. Although he had taken a serious blow due to being so close, he was the first to charge in. As the experts of the 10,000 races were pouring through, finding Sui Feng in their midst would be like searching for a needle in the ocean. Anyway, Long Chun was in no rush to charge through, so he chose to watch first. Long Chun kept feeling like this martial stage was strange, so he refused to fight for the front of the pack in this state. Anyway, the Sage King convention was a fight for power. Fighting for a spot at the front? That was the pinnacle of foolishness. Long Chun wasn't the only one thinking like this. Quite a few experts were calmly watching as well. In truth, those lifeforms who were charging forward weren't fools. They were just triggered after seeing Sui Feng charge in right at the start. After all, Sui Feng was a heavenly genius of the violet blood race. Since he had gone in, others were unable to wait and just charged in without hesitation. With such a chain reaction, more and more people were unable to sit still. After a while, the fighting got extremely intense, sending a torrent of blood around the place. It was unknown just how many life forms were dying in the chaos. As they died, they didn't even know who killed them, as it was far too chaotic. Even within this indiscriminate bloodshed, people continued to charge in. Something's off. There's a strange fluctuation affecting people's minds. Everyone, be careful! Exclaimed Meng Qi suddenly. Everyone, fall back. Don't be affected by the blood. Long Chun also sensed something off. Hearing this, their hearts shook. They had just felt an intense desire to charge in. Seeing their fellow humans be killed, their anger surged. Fortunately, this warning made them realize that this intense killing intent seemed to have been drawn out of them by some mysterious power. If they really were to charge into that mess, there was no way they would survive. Now that they had calmed down, they became covered in cold sweat. Once they fell back, their minds grew clearer. So, upon seeing countless experts still charging in, they shivered. The weaker disciples, who had come perilously close to death on the staircase, looked at Long Chun and his companions with a mix of reverence and gratitude. If it weren't for Long Chun, they would have died twice. Furthermore, Long Chun had even fought against Sui Feng to protect them. Their gratitude toward him was beyond words now. Only when everyone was near death could they comprehend the essence of life. Although they might not necessarily comprehend it, they would at least realize just how precious life was. Suddenly, cracks spread across the martial stage. "The martial stage is about to explode," shouted Li Qi. Boom! The next moment, the martial stage exploded and everyone fell down. The collapsed martial stage then transformed into motes of light falling through the air, following everyone down. With this martial stage gone, everyone let out startled cries. There was actually another martial stage beneath this one. It looked similar to the one above, but it was much smaller, less than 1/100th of its size. Furthermore, at the core of this martial stage was another barrier. Within it, there were 9 golden dragons, their heads pointed inward and their tails extending outward. Their mouths were open as if they were roaring. Where the 9 dragon mouths converged, a golden bead that gave off mystical fluctuations could be seen. Upon witnessing these fluctuations, the pupils of everyone in the vicinity, Long Chun included, constricted in awe. Karmic luck bead. Long Chun had encountered karmic luck beads in the mortal world before. After the Devil Slaughter rankings, Long Chun gave that karmic luck bead to Guoran, thinking that it wouldn't be able to change his fate. When Guoran gained this bead, he was blessed with fortune, having fortuitous encounters wherever he went. Even after ascending to the immortal world and ending up in a dangerous place like the All-Devil Starfield, he miraculously survived the relentless pursuit of his enemy. This fact vividly highlighted the importance of karmic luck. As a result, the appearance of this karmic luck bead sent Long Chun and Guoran into a frenzy. After all, the power of this karmic luck bead was millions of times stronger than the one Guoran had absorbed. The difference was like a drop of water next to the vast sea. "Boss!" Guoran went crazy upon seeing it. Ever since Long Chun had gifted him a karmic luck bead, he had come to understand the profound significance of karmic luck in a person's life. In fact, he sometimes regretted taking it for himself. If he had given it to his boss instead, his boss's accomplishments would definitely be even greater. Now, seeing this karmic luck bead, Guoran swore to obtain it for his boss no matter what. "We're going." Finally, Long Chun couldn't sit still any longer and shot toward the core. However, just as he moved, he sensed an abrupt shift in the surroundings. Mysterious channels had materialized on the martial stage, channeling the fresh blood from the slain experts into the barrier. With the nourishment of that fresh blood, the 9 dragons suddenly opened their eyes. 9 enormous golden dragons suddenly twitched, their eyes moving as if they had been bestowed with life. The next moment, a terrible aura rapidly rose. When a pillar of golden light erupted out of the barrier above the 9 dragons, the dragons directly pierced the barrier around the martial stage and soared into the clouds. After that, the golden pillar thickened, growing until there was an enormous passageway stretching beyond the 9 heavens. As soon as this passageway appeared, black chi gushed out from above the 9 heavens, infecting the golden passageway until it turned black as well. Following that, a scene that terrified everyone appeared. Countless life forms began to flood out of that giant passageway. Upon seeing those life forms, Xia Chan and the others let out startled cries. Dark creatures. They hadn't expected to see dark creatures here. These beings emanated the same ominous auras as those found in the life-forbidden area. However, the notable distinction lay in the fact that the dark creatures here were significantly stronger and far more brutal. Monsters! Monsters! When the flood of creatures appeared, everyone was dumbfounded. Unable to comprehend what was going on, they immediately stopped killing each other. Was this not a fight for karmic luck? How could a gate to hell open here? Many people had never seen dark creatures before. Hence, seeing the unknown, they were filled with fright. These creatures had giant heads, elongated hands, and weird-looking feet. Their mouths occupied half of their heads, their jagged fangs resembling saw-teeth, flickering with cold light. Their very presence exuded an aura of unquenchable bloodlust. What is going on? The experts outside the martial stage were also stunned. Even the seniors didn't all recognize these creatures. However, given their brutal gazes, sharp claws, and sinister appearances, everyone knew that they were not some kind-hearted species. As for those who recognized these dark creatures, their expressions were even worse than the others. How can this be? After the primal chaos battle, aren't the dark creatures restricted to the life-forbidden area? They aren't supposed to be able to get out, cried out a horrified elder. Dark creatures have appeared. Is this the eve of another dark battle? This person's voice quivered, his eyes full of fear. On the martial stage, everyone fell silent, feeling terrified. The various lifeforms only stared at the dark creatures, not even daring to move. As for those dark creatures, they seemed to be curiously eyeing the situation below, not moving either. Guoran gulped. Maybe they won't come down. Guoran had barely spoken when those dark creatures let out strange cries. The next moment, a dark flood crashed down from the heavens. Retreat! Use the barrier as the foundation of our defense, shouted Long Chen. The moment these dark creatures appeared, Long Chen's heart shuddered. The blood chi of these creatures was even stronger than the ones from the life-forbidden area. Obeying his command, the dragon-blood warriors immediately fell back. As for the other disciples with them, their reactions were a step slower. Fortunately, hearing Long Chen's warning, they rapidly retreated as well. Their side was the first to reach the outer barrier. With this, their rear was safe, protected by a wall. On the other hand, countless lifeforms roared and charged at the dark creatures. What fools! This is the trial of the Sage King Convention. Whoever kills more dark creatures will become the future Sage King. When one of the experts voiced this notion, the crowd was immediately drawn to that idea. After all, this was the Sage King martial stage. These monsters couldn't just appear for no reason. With that person's lead, countless people charged into the deluge of dark creatures. Even peak experts went against the flow of dark creatures, relentlessly cutting through their ranks and engaging in merciless slaughter. These dark creatures were numerous, but their power could only be considered average within the Immortal King realm. They might be fatal to ordinary Immortal Kings, but to peak experts, they weren't that difficult to deal with. Kill! Countless experts from diverse races rushed head-on toward the dark creatures. Their combined might was overwhelming, swiftly slaying the dark creatures before they could even land on the ground. In fact, there weren't enough dark creatures to go around. Seeing that there was no danger, more and more people joined the fray. However, Long Chen continued to just watch, seeming to not have any intention of fighting. At this time, the disciples behind him grew anxious. Should we attack as well? If you want to attack, go ahead. However, I'll give you a warning first. Once someone leaves our ranks, they won't be able to come back. My boss could save you once, but he can't save you for a lifetime. Your lives are your own. Make your own decisions, said Guoran coldly. Some of those people were displeased by Guoran's response, so one of them coldly said, "You saved us, so we owe you a debt. But if you think that you can order us around because of this, you're going too far. Also, even if you hadn't saved us, it would have only taken us some more time on the stairs. Don't try to act as our savior and order us around." The expressions of the Dragonblood warriors sank. This person was actually so blind. What bullshit are you spouting at? If it weren't for senior apprentice brother Long Chen taking us in, we'd have long since died on the stairs. Now, your mouth is quite tough, but when the others wanted to kill us, you didn't do anything. You're just a dog biting the hand that feeds you, shouted someone else within their ranks. Humph, spineless brats. We really have different Daos. I have nothing to say to you. That person then turned to Long Chen. Long Chen, I owe you a debt. Wang Panshan will definitely repay you. However, I still have my freedom, and I will not be bound by anything. Everyone, farewell. After saying that, this person left their group, taking out his weapon and charging toward the core. As soon as he entered the flood of dark creatures, he killed quite a few. It seemed that he really did have some skill. I'm sorry. I'm going too. Quite a few people also left, following him. Driven by the sight of everyone else killing the dark creatures, they were afraid that they would be eliminated from the Sage King convention if they stayed idle. Ignoring Guarant's warning, millions of people left. With these people's departure, more and more people were tempted. Guarant was about to speak when Long Chun raised his hand. Meeting is the start of destiny. Leaving is the end of destiny. There is no way to change some things. Everyone's life is their own. Don't vainly try to change other people's fates. I could only give them one chance, but not a second one. Around 6 to 7 million experts left their group. Long Chun didn't stop them. However, the majority continued to trust Long Chun and patiently waited here. Suddenly, the flood of dark creatures grew berserk, and countless dark creatures with silver lines on their bodies descended from the heavens. Guarant and the other sighed when they saw those dark creatures. They couldn't help shaking their heads. Following that, the scene that they had long since anticipated occurred. Countless disciples who had charged into their ranks were slain by these new dark creatures. These creatures with silver marks on them were elites amongst dark creatures. Guarant and the others were all too familiar with them. Their power was equal to the heavenly geniuses of the human race, around the level of double supremes. Back in the life-forbidden area, even the Dragonblood warriors didn't dare to be careless against those dark creatures with silver marks. Currently, there were some silver-marked creatures mixed into the ranks of normal dark creatures, and occasionally one with golden markings would appear. Facing them, the normal experts would naturally be at a disadvantage. At the start, there weren't that many elite creatures, but in the blink of an eye they became the main force. More and more of the gold-marked creatures appeared. As their claws and teeth were comparable to world domain divine items, normal experts were unable to pose much of a threat to them. As more dark creatures appeared, it was like a flood spreading in every direction. In the face of this overwhelming onslaught, countless experts abandoned the fight and hastily turned to flee. However, fleeing now was a bit too late. Countless experts were directly drowned by the wave of dark creatures and torn apart. Moreover, life forms that were slain by these dark creatures couldn't even escape as Yuan spirits. They were fully dead. As for those experts who had left Long Chen's side, they were still on the edge of the battlefield. Seeing the situation change, they immediately fled. Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, save me! A terrified cry rang out, emanating from none other than the person who had been first to leave Long Chen's camp. Gone was his previous arrogance, replaced by sheer terror as he desperately flew, pursued by an endless swarm of dark creatures behind him. I already gave you a chance, but you wasted it. You even brought down so many others with you. In this world, no one owes anyone anything. You didn't cherish your own life, but you want others to risk their lives to save you? Sorry, but I'm no saint. I can't do it. Long Chun shook his head. Long Chun, you're just going to watch as we die. No. The distraction caused his speed to drop, and he was then devoured by the wave of dark creatures, vanishing without a trace. Even his screams were drowned out. Prepare for battle. The Dragonblood warriors will be the main attack force. Battle God Palace's experts, you will assist the attack. Disciples of the Starry River Palace, you will be the wings, switching between offense and defense. Disciples of the Academy, provide support wherever you can. As for the others, if you have the power, join the defenses. If you don't mess around. Just patiently wait, said Long Chen. As the flood of dark creatures reached them, his voice was still calm. The Dragonblood warriors unsheathed their swords the moment Long Chen finished speaking. As a result, the flood of dark creatures seemed to crash into a giant wall. Their initial assault was completely obliterated. With just one move, the wave crashing toward them was stopped. Furthermore, it was done easily, as if it took no effort at all, shocking all the onlookers. The Battle God Palace's disciples were originally a bit unhappy to be relegated to a supporting role. After all, they were all warlike fighters, extremely confident in their own power. However, after seeing the Dragonblood warriors unleash this one attack, they were completely convinced. The most frightening thing wasn't the fact that just over 2,000 individuals managed to halt such a relentless assault. It was the astonishing unity of their movements. Every bit of their power perfectly harmonized and supported each other, creating a profound force that shocked everyone. Perhaps if it was just two people attacking together, it was understandable. But for 2,000 people to have such a level of cooperation, it was unheard of. Kill! After a brief moment of shock, the battle god Palace's disciples began to attack the straggling creatures. Meanwhile, the Starry River sect's disciples summoned their manifestations, causing starry rivers to surge forth. Their killing power was also astonishing. These dark creatures were annihilated as soon as they got close. The Starry River sect's disciples were surrounded by stars, their auras astonishing. To everyone's surprise, their manifestations could actually link together and support each other. It was like they were one enormous star formation. With the charge stopped, the threat of these dark creatures plummeted. The Academy's disciples didn't even need to step up, let alone the other disciples. They just silently watched. Long Chun, what do you think? Meng Qi stood beside Long Chun, staring at the passageway leading above the heavens where endless dark creatures continued to descend. Her gaze was a bit grave. Naturally, I think best with you by my side, said Long Chun. Meng Qi smiled and shook her head, her smile melting Long Chen's heart. Regrettably, there were too many people around for him to steal a kiss from her. Seeing him looking at her like that, Meng Qi blushed, but she was happy. After being apart for so long, they had finally reunited. The crowd left no room for her to have a private conversation with Long Chun. There was no chance to express their emotions. Nevertheless, Long Chen's familiar gaze, the same as when they had first met in the Phoenix Cry Empire, warmed her heart. She could feel that Long Chen's love for her had not diminished in the slightest. However, Meng Qi didn't dare to express it here, so she scolded, I was asking what you think about the dark creatures. Why would I want to think about them? With so many of my beautiful wives around me, I'm totally captivated by you all. I can't even get enough of looking at each of you, so why would I look at them? Said Long Chun in a voice only those closest to him could hear. They all blushed. This praise was far too blatant, but they also knew that it was intentional. Don't mess around. At this critical time, you should be a bit more serious, rebuked Meng Qi. Long Chen nodded. Truly wasn't the time for jokes. Hence, Long Chen's expression turned serious. As he looked at the spatial channel, he said, This time, the Sage King convention is extremely off. The rules have all changed. Now it's like a poison jar and we're the bugs. I thought the title of Sage King would be given to the last poisonous bugs alive. In other words, the only way to win is to kill all others. It's clearly a trap set up to kill us all. But now, even these dark creatures have appeared, so my original theory no longer works. It seems that there is another trap in this generation's Sage King convention. What do you think that trap is? Or what is the goal? Asked Meng Qi. Long Chen shook his head. Just as he was about to say something else, his expression changed. Guoran, kill them. Seeing several furtive figures sneaking into the flood of dark creatures, Long Chun instantly had a bad feeling. He noticed that these figures were able to slip through the ranks of dark creatures without being attacked. It was as if the dark creatures didn't even sense them. Guoran immediately took out his crossbow. The next moment, a golden streak of light accurately struck one of them in the head. That figure exploded, unleashing a wave of powerful devil chi. This was clearly an expert of the devil race. Guoran repeatedly shot, unleashing golden arrows that accurately killed his targets. However, Long Chen's expression quickly changed as he sensed that there weren't only experts from the devil race. There were also members of the demonic beast race. Boom! Another expert was accurately killed. However, before dying, they tossed out an object, a sphere that exploded in the air. The next moment, a strange liquid flew through the air, and a disgusting stench rose. In response, countless dark creatures seemed to be provoked. They roared and charged toward the smell. How sinister! Guoran and the others were enraged. These malicious fellows actually found a way to draw the dark creatures to the human race's side. They were trying to get Long Chun and the others killed. Realizing that they couldn't charge through the horde of dark creatures, They directly tossed the burden onto Long Chen's side. More of those spheres exploded around them. These hateful fellows had originally been hoping to toss the spheres amidst Long Chen's companions. But now that they were noticed, they directly detonated the spheres once they were nearby. With this, countless dark creatures were stimulated and attracted to this region. Even though this liquid wasn't splashed directly on them, the effect was still quite potent. The dark creatures on the martial stage seemed to go insane, charging at Long Chen's side. As a result, quite a few weak disciples were terrified, their eyes full of despair. "It's over. We're really doomed now," painful cry rang out. In all their lives, they had never seen such a terrifying thing before. As for the human experts outside the martial stage, they were enraged but powerless to do anything. They could only watch. What pleased them was the division within the human race's ranks, with Long Chen's group representing just 10% of the human disciples. It was evident that these hateful fellows only targeted Long Chen and not the entire human race. "Boss, should we start the counterattack?" asked Goran. "Wait a bit, there's no rush. We will proceed with the original plan," declared Long Chen. He coldly looked at those lifeforms that had thrown the spheres but refrained from killing them. As countless dark creatures charged toward them, everyone on Long Chen's side had to join the fight now. But there were just too many dark creatures. Their defensive line continuously shrank. These dark creatures had gone crazy, ignoring all the others on the martial stage and relentlessly charging at Long Chen. Since the other races were under no pressure at all, they became nothing more than spectators. As for the human experts, they watched as Long Chen and the others were besieged. Some even smiled, delighting in their misfortune. When the heavens go mad, there is a storm. When humans go mad, there is a tribulation. "Long Chen, aren't you very strong? Why are you cowering like a turtle now?" shouted someone. "Maybe he's so delusional that he's thinking about conserving his power for the title of Sage King. Doesn't that mean that he's sacrificing all his subordinates?" sneered another. "Ah, I see. So you keep those weaklings around to use them as sacrificial pawns. Haha, not bad, not bad. What trash." He acted so sanctimoniously, as if he was the savior of the world. What a disgusting man. Countless sneers rang out from the ranks of the human race. However, those people were all hidden, only speaking and not letting people know who they were. "Shut up. You're the trash." Everyone saw what kind of person Long Chen is very clearly. On the other hand, you're hiding in the crowd, shamelessly spewing venom. What right do you have to criticize others? Finally, someone amongst the human race spoke up for Long Chen. "You idiots, the devil race, blood race, and demonic beast race are trying to harm Long Chen. Anyone with eyes can see it, yet you sneer at him instead of helping? Are you even human? That's right, you're all shameful trash. If you have guts, show yourselves. Let us know which faction you are from." "What? You don't dare? You must be afraid of Long Chen taking revenge on you. What useless trolls. When Long Chen is besieged, can we really just watch? This is clearly a scheme. They're trying to break us up piece by piece. If Long Chen and the others die, I guarantee that we'll be next. Are you just going to watch? That's right, we're all part of the human race. We should be united against our enemies, not watching as our fellow humans are killed one by one. If we all die, the human race will lose a portion of its power. Do you not know that people are only strong when they are together?" Hee, nice words. But what do their deaths have to do with us? If Long Chen takes the title of Sage King, will he share the karmic luck with me? Anyone can say dignified words, but on the martial path, everyone is a competitor, whether it is fellow humans or other races. When it comes to the Sage King convention, other than myself, everyone else is an enemy. You want to save them? Are you joking? Said someone disdainfully. You? Fine, I can't out-reason you. But I know that I am human, and the human race should help and support each other. Even if we are to compete with each other, there is a bottom line. Everyone wants to become the Sage King, but I won't throw away my bottom line for this title, especially not when we are surrounded by enemies. Just look at those devils and beasts. Do you know how many humans their ancestors have slain? Have you forgotten about the sea of blood between us? Has the title of Sage King blinded you to this enmity? Are you really human? If you aren't going, then I will. Suddenly, one of the human experts really did fly toward Long Chen's camp, stunning countless people. I'm coming too. Following that, a second person, a third, a fourth, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Countless experts formed a stream rushing to where Long Chen was. Brothers of the human race, don't worry. We will support you. Seeing these people come to aid them, Yu Qingxian smiled slightly. She then looked at Long Chen tenderly. What you were waiting for was them, right? Long Chen also smiled, feeling moved. I've always said that the human race still has hope. Long Chen subconsciously clenched his fists. His blood began to heat up. Brothers, don't worry. We are here. You are not fighting alone. Heroic cries rang out one after another, as more and more humans flew to Long Chen's side. They were like a spear stabbing into the torrent of dark creatures. There were quite a few triple supremes amongst them. As the top figures of their factions, they slaughtered these dark creatures easily. An open space was quickly cleared up, and those experts managed to reach Long Chen and the others through this space. What are you doing? However, to their surprise, just as they managed to open a path, numerous people from Long Chen's side actually charged out of it. At first, they even thought that these people had come to aid them, but before they could even feel moved by that, they realized that something was off. These people didn't even greet them and just flew right by them. The brave experts had come to aid them, but these people were actually using them to flee from this place. This unexpected turn of events left these brave experts enraged. Are you even humans? Don't you have the slightest sense of loyalty in your bones? However, mere curses were unable to stop these cowards from leaving. They still fled, lowering their heads so that they didn't show their faces. Some of them even directly put on masks. So you know how to cover up your face. You already have no face at all, so what's the point? Curse someone. He would be glad to kill these people himself. Long Chen had protected these cowards, but at this critical time, they actually abandoned Long Chen and his companions. The experts who had come to assist them were completely enraged by this. It was like they viewed them all as idiots. Ignore them. In any case, we're only doing what we want to do, said a supreme heavenly genius. Some had come to save them and some were fleeing. Who was a hero and who was a coward was clear here. Brother Long, we're here to help. The first wave of experts quickly reached their camp. After that, they began to find places for themselves within their defensive line. Words cannot express my thanks. Your arrival is my greatest motivation, said Long Chen emotionally. From a distance, Long Chen's emotional reaction made people think that he felt relieved at being saved. Hence, they sneered at him. Only Meng Qi, Yu Qingxian, Tang Wan'er, and the others familiar with Long Chen knew that the reason Long Chen was so moved was because these people were true hot-blooded righteous men, the pillars of the human race. They let Long Chen see hope for the human race. Meng Qi and the others were all smiling emotionally. They knew that Long Chen had precisely been waiting all this time just for them. They had come to save Long Chen, all without realizing that they had managed to save themselves. As millions of experts had come to aid them, the situation was temporarily stabilized. These experts were truly not bad. There were over 100 triple supremes, and the others were also quite powerful. Brother Long Chen, you are a good person. Don't listen to those trolls. You're a real man, and we really admire you, said one of them. Ha ha ha. For you to risk your life to aid us at this perilous time is enough to show me that you're a hot-blooded man. Once the Sage King convention is over, I will definitely drink with you all until we all collapse. Long Chen laughed heroically. Ha ha ha, good. These people laughed as well, their arrival amid all this mounting pressure indicating their readiness to confront death. Every single one of them was an honest and straightforward man. You can drink in the netherworld instead. At this time, someone sneered at them from a distance, intentionally spreading their voice just to infuriate Long Chen and the others. This person was very cunning, hiding his presence within the crowd. Furthermore, amidst the sea of dark creatures, Locating him among billions of experts was as challenging as finding a needle in the ocean. Die! Long Chun suddenly shouted, his voice like thunder piercing through the crowd. Following that, one person in the crowd screamed in terror. He was holding his ears tightly, but blood continued to flow, seeping through his fingers. It was like he was being tortured. Suddenly, his head exploded, and his screams came to an end. His body then fell limply to the ground, his life extinguished in an instant. Idiot! Did you really think that I couldn't do anything to you? Other than stabbing people in the back, people like you have no other skill. The human race is only forced to the brink because of idiots like you. I only let you live for so long to see just how much hope the human race really has. Now, the seeds of hope have appeared, so you are no longer useful, declared Long Chun. He then turned to Meng Qi. Meng Qi nodded and slowly raised her hands. Her slender fingers slowly made a few seals. Suddenly, a translucent ripple spread out of her, causing countless screams to ring out amongst the crowd. Hundreds of people clutched their heads and fell to the ground, screaming like pigs being slaughtered. Their whole bodies quivered, their faces full of terror. Refining the soul through space? How is that possible? Startled cries rang out, especially from other soul cultivators. Soul cultivators possessed the ability to pinpoint a person's location within a crowd by the resonance of their voice and soul. However, in this vast assembly, with voices layered upon voices, and the mouth clackers intentionally blending their spiritual fluctuations, it became an immensely challenging task. Even if someone managed to locate them, launching a spiritual attack from such a distance was an entirely different matter. Unless one had previously affixed a spiritual lock on an individual while they were speaking, accomplishing this feat was virtually impossible. However, a spiritual lock would definitely be noticed. After all, everyone here was an expert. There was no way Long Chun and the others could place a spiritual lock on someone without them noticing, unless their spiritual strength was 10,000 times greater than that of the other party. Boom! Suddenly, some of those screaming guys chose to self-detonate. What made it even more alarming was the swiftness of their actions. As a result, several people were caught in the explosions and coughed up blood. What a sinister woman! Stop! That person had just spoken when his head flew into the air. No one knew what had cut off his head. Everyone was shocked. To be able to kill someone at such an immense distance, without anyone being aware of it, was absolutely terrifying. They didn't even know who did it. Just then, rumbling sounds rang out, and a lot of dark creatures with golden marks came out of the passageway. Some of those marks were actually dark gold. When Long Chun saw those creatures, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. That's the aura of dark lords. Guoran and the others cried out in shock. Xia Chun, you know what to do, said Long Chun. He, understood. Xia Chun laughed and waved his hand, releasing hundreds of flying talismans that formed a large sphere, which then rapidly compressed. Space began to compress until it was a palm-sized ball. After that, the ball suddenly vanished, reappearing in the devil race's territory. Boom! As the ball exploded, that strange odor once more erupted, causing the devil race's experts to panic.